there are a few of the trustees that are not here yet, and we don't quite sure where they're at, but I'm hoping that they'll, oh, here's one of them. They'll be moseying in as we go, but in order to honor everybody's time, we will get this meeting started. So I will call this regularly scheduled meeting of the East Helena Board of Trustees into session, and the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you one and all for joining us this evening. Very much appreciated you taking time out to join us. Before the board this evening, we have tonight's agenda. Are there any questions or comments from the board on said agenda? Seeing none, then we'll move on to hear the public. This is the opportunity for the public to address the board on non-agenda items. On the back of this evening's agenda are guidelines for addressing the board on such items. And so if anyone chooses or would like to do so, I would invite them to address the board. Please.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Julie, and my husband works for the school district, and my comments will be brief. First off, I want to thank you for serving on the school board. Next, as you know, a group of select and vocal individuals have been campaigning for the termination of my husband from his position in the school district. They want to end a career that he has loved and to take from him his ability to provide for his family. This campaign includes a petition that includes half-truths, distortions, and lies. This campaign has been successful in stirring up hate and violence to the point that my husband was assaulted in the high school in the middle of the school day. This attack was premeditated and reported by an accomplice and posted online. It is my understanding his assailant has even received financial support for this act of violence. My husband did not deserve that. He is a good man, he is a good father, and a good teacher. I want to thank you. I also have a prior commitment tonight, so I would like to be excused.
Absolutely. Could you give us your last name, please, Julie?
Pritchard.
Pritchard.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Bye.
Are there any other members of the audience that would like to address the board? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to the student report. And our student report, our student is not here this evening.
Playing baseball.
He's playing baseball, and so we will forego that and we'll move on to our administrator's report. And we'll start off with the little ones. And Brandon, go ahead and tell us what's going on over
All right, good evening. In my board report, I mentioned a few things, one of which was just some systems and processes that we put in place over the last few years to really make sure that we can help students transition from grade to grade and making sure that we have a lot of the information tacked onto them to make sure that the incoming school or teacher has everything that they need to know to hopefully get those kids up and running on day one. In addition to that, just a couple of things that I wanted to share with the board are just some parent and family events. So on Friday, we had our Donuts with Grown-ups for Eastgate. A week from this Friday, we'll do the Donuts with Grown-ups for Prickly Pear. I do want to give a huge shout out to our PTO. They've been instrumental in allowing us to do some of these events with some of the funding. And then the last thing that we have going on, well, not the last thing, but the last big family event that we have going on is the first week in May. We're doing a wellness week, and we're going to cap that off with a family Friday. And that'll be where we invite all families in for different grade levels to do like a field day with us. So I can answer any questions you might have, or anything else you might be on your mind.
Does anybody have any
I
questions?
just have one quick question.
Yeah.
The black box that you talk about, does that travel then to the next school that they go to? So like second grade, third grade will then see it?
Correct.
Okay. And do they take a look at those?
They do.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions for Brandon? Okay, Gus, what's going on over at Radley?
Yeah, I noticed my board report did not make it into the packet. I was a little tardy this month, but I focused on reporting on a lot of things that Mr. Crusade just reported on. We take a lot of time in this spring to really figure out the complex puzzle of designing class lists. And there's a lot of conversations that go into those considerations to make sure that, you know, we have heterogeneous groupings, but also take into consideration the different diverse dynamics that are associated with that. Also, I just gave a quick update about our Jumpstart program and our Summer Pals. We have roughly 100 students enrolled thus far. We're shooting to hopefully enroll some more students by the end of the spring to hopefully get within that 130, 140 range. This spring is just, the springtime is always busy with field trips. We got 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade field trips happening here in the spring with Museum of the Rockies, going to the Helena Symphony, going to the Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center. The 4th graders visit, do an agriculture day over at one of the local ranches, and then band concert with our 5th grade. So just busy spring at this time for field trips. So I'll take any questions if you guys have any.
Any questions for Gus? Thank you, appreciate it. Lindsay?
So track has started at EVMS with 5 through 8, and last I asked, he said he's like at 120 or more at this point, and he's got people wanting to join every day. So they are doing amazing with that many kids out there. And upcoming things are, we're going to have, of course, our talent show in May. Because Mr. Kemper loves our talent show to show his talents, so we're gonna do that in May. And other than that, it just becomes super busy in the spring. Mass testing is almost wrapped up. We're hoping to have that done by Friday, because when May hits, everybody has baseball tournaments and everything else, and it's very hard to hunt down students to get tested.
Okay. Question for Lindsay? Michael?
Yeah, so like I mentioned in my report, the month started out pretty heavy with some major behaviors before it mellowed out. Kind of seeing that again this month a little bit, kind of around that harassment category and specifically. So we're just kind of working with the counselors on what lessons we can have them go into the classrooms and do on harassment, kind of understand it a little bit more, implications with it. Also, in my report, I kind of credited the quick improvement to the year, or to the month, kind of steadying out on behaviors, to our teachers, just kind of cracking down on expectations, but also I just want to kind of credit the students too, to where when we do our morning announcements in the morning, we talk about the expectations, they've responded really well to that, and just kind of showing that when we bring it to their forefront of their minds too, so. Questions?
Any questions? Okay.
I love that you've got rid of energy drinks, but how is that going over for you?
It's going really well. At first it was busy,
Yep.
but I don't want to, I'll say it, it's been quiet, knock on wood. And again though, it's like we have those announcements in the morning announcements, they hear it, they know it, they're following it, so they responded really well to it. It's gone pretty well.
And we also used to let them put it in their locker for the end of the day, and then we're like, well, you can hurry and drink it or throw it away. And so they're like, I have to throw it away. I'm like, well, you've known for a whole year now, so we've just kind of pushed down on that too. So now they know that we can't leave it in our locker to sip on it in between classes.
Out of my own ignorance, and as a follow-up to Tiffany's question, you said at the beginning of the year, first off, the drinks that we're talking about, are these things that a child could purchase on their own without any ramifications, say at Town Pump or another one of the stores?
Correct, yeah, and really kind of what the conversation came for us is like, yeah, we know it's not good for them, but it's also hard for us to tell because they make the alcoholic versions out there too, that just walking by, it's really hard to tell what cans what and kind of regulating those. So that was kind of our first prompt, like, all right, we need to really shut these down because it's just so hard to tell on the go which is which. So just making it flat across the board, plus they're terrible for them, so it was just kind of a benefit all the way around.
I understand that. My big concern would be is it based on a policy that we have, and or is it something in the student handbook that precludes and for them to say that, well, yeah, but you guys never told us, or that wasn't something that we agreed upon, and that's something that's legal for them to possess and to have, and then we turn around and say, but you can't. And I just wondered on what the
So we talk about the federal guidelines of kids having sugar in, like if you have a vending machine, you can't have sugary things in there. So that guideline from the federal government on what can be in the school and what can't. And then we also talk about, it's in our handbook of the drinks that they can and can't have, like they can't have soda at lunch from years ago just because of the federal guidelines. And now we just added the energy drinks because they're way worse for them. And it was a catch-22, a learning experience that Kemper and I learned that there are alcohol versions of those.
So for us, it was kind of that discussion too, like, the cell phones, it's legal for them to have a cell phone, but per our handbook.
And policy though. And so that was one of the distinctions I had, is that I was concerned about if a parent found that their kid was placed in detention, could they come back on us and say, hey, you know, that's an unfair disciplinary action? And that would have been my concern on it. But it sounds like it's probably a non-issue at this point, but perhaps it's something that we need to address on a policy level as well, or at least making sure that it gets incorporated into the handbook in some fashion. Any other questions for Lindsay or Michael? Okay, then we'll go on to the high school, and I don't see Paul, so did.
I have double duty, so you have Paul's board report in front of you, but I get to introduce a dear friend that I've known for quite, I won't say how long, but she and I go way back. This is Kate Peterson, and she's here to present on behalf of NCCE, one of the amazing awards that was handed to Marty Bender. So, Kate, take it away.
Should we stand up? Should we stand
Yeah.
up? You should get your award out as well. Well, thank you for allowing me to be here today and talk publicly about how wonderful Marnie is. I know you all know this about her. Any of you who have worked with her or had children go through her libraries. So I'm here representing NCCE, and we have, every year we choose an innovative librarian, an innovative teacher, and an innovative technology leader. And this year, Marnie was a clear winner for the Innovative Librarian Award. She had a lovely nomination from Katie Jones, which I'm sure you're not surprised to hear that. And she was just a standout in the pile of nominees that we got. So we were very excited to offer her that award. And although I'm here as a board member, I'm also here as a parent of a former student of Marnie's, and she was lucky enough to have my oldest in this space, and he was a handful, and she handled him with grace and kindness and humor, thank goodness. And so I just personally, I'm just so grateful to be able to hand this to her too. So yes, so.
Congratulations.
She also gave a very wonderful speech at the conference to her group of librarians, and she got them all fired up, and it was.
And I forgot it all, so I can't repeat it.
Thank you.
I'm super honored. I
Yes.
appreciate it. This is so fancy.
Great
Yes.
job, Marty.
Yeah, congratulations. Well deserved.
Alright, so if you have questions on Paul's board report, I can't help you. So I mean, if you've got them, I guess I can try to answer them, but any on Paul's?
Any questions on our high school board?
Okay, and then as far as my board report, discipline referrals are in there, up a little bit, but March into April is always a little bit chaotic at the high school. The weather starts to change, kids get their driver's licenses, and then magically they start skipping classes. So Paul and I have beefed up our walks through what he calls the car park, or the parking lot to everybody else. And the car park. And we also have a new deputy sheriff, we'll call him, patrolling the parking lot at lunch as well. We had a teacher sign up, and he's amazing. He is working his tail off out there. So really excited about that. Most of them, like I mentioned, are due to tardies or attendance violations, most handled within the classroom, and then just a reminder for me, make sure you go to your lunch detention. So at the very bottom there, one of the things we're focusing on is yes, we're a newer high school, but we're no longer a brand new high school. We've been in existence for quite a few years now. So we are compiling, I know we have the EHHS hub that our teachers use to look through all the different resources and handbooks and things that we have. But what we wanna do is continue to beef that up as, this is what we do as East Helena High School. And as we continue to build ourselves as our own entity, we just wanna make sure our staff know exactly where to go to find the information they need. So we're working on that through all the various committees that we use at the high school. So it's gonna be fun to put this all together, but we'll make sure that it's updated and our staff are able to look through it and we train all of our staff in where all of this is at. Any questions? Also, you can ask, Senioritis is real. I think it started in October for our kids, but we have the ACT for juniors tomorrow, pre-ACT for sophomores on Wednesday, and the pre-ACT for our freshmen on Thursday. And I've heard senior skip days tomorrow, I've heard it's Wednesday, I've heard it's Thursday, so I have no idea, don't ask me. Don't ask me, I don't know what it is, so.
Any questions for Tricia?
Okay.
Okay, seeing none. Eric?
Good evening. So we received 350 Chromebooks and all of our staff PCs. We haven't received our iPads yet, but we're about 2/3 of the way deployed with the Chromebooks. I thought we were gonna have a little more time before the Dell computers got here. So I don't know the best plan for that right now. I think we're just gonna wait till school ends to deploy those so it doesn't affect the teachers as much. And we can get the configurations and everything set up right. We should have the iPads soon. I keep getting emails saying they've been delayed, but other than that, the ACT that Trish mentioned, we did get all the devices ready for that. Just gonna do one more check in the morning and hopefully we'll be good to go.
Any questions for Eric? Okay, seeing none, I see Sean is not here in attendance.
I think
He's at baseball.
Okay, which doesn't surprise me. However, there was, he does have his report in our board packet. And I don't know whether or not I should wait and ask him directly on this. But when we were talking about the softball and the Jefferson High Co-op, and there were some things in his report that I wasn't quite sure if I was clear on. And I don't know, Dan, if you'd be able to answer those questions or not, or if I should wait.
I think maybe wait.
Okay.
Because the rules changed on it, like it said before, and so it might need some clarification from Sean. So maybe pop off an email to him or set up 10 meetings.
Okay.
And he's pretty busy right now because we got him teaching like 4 classes of driver's ed on top of trying to be the athletic director, so.
And just so the board knows is that the point of my concern is just whether or not we dissolve it or, you know, what the threshold is for us to go up to a double A. And do we go to a double A level solely because of the softball issue or if there's other ramifications or implications associated with it. And so that would be kind of the basis of my questions on it because that wasn't, when this was first proposed, that wasn't the original intent. And so then if that's changed, then I believe the board will need to make those.
Don't they count both schools now as the attendance, so that way it pushes this school almost we get an exception from the board?
Yeah, and that's what's really driving it.
From my understanding.
They are?
It would just be from softball, is my understanding,
Yeah.
because they take the attendance from both
Yeah.
Boulder and us. And
Yeah,
course
because of the co-op.
past, yes.
So it would be solely for the softball
Yeah.
program, it would not require us to,
That's
Right.
how I understood it.
No, you're right, Stacy.
okay.
That's
Because I didn't understand it that way,
Okay.
so that's a good clarification.
Because it's only taking the 2 schools that are co-opted together to create that number that goes past that threshold.
Right.
Yeah, the threshold is what, 800? I think it's 8 or 850 is the
I
threshold.
think 800 for double A.
Yeah.
So if our two enrollments together total more than that, then they're gonna force the change unless we petition it. But we have till 27, 28, till the spring, till next spring to figure that out too. It'll partly depend on what Jefferson's enrollment looks like and if they're gonna make that move or not. They've been talking about it for a couple of years, so it is a little bit up in the air.
Okay.
Good question though.
Okay.
And And part of the reason it came up was, the rules changed from when we initially started the co-op, because we were under the impression that we had to renew it, and then I think last year they changed it to where you don't have to renew your co-op unless you're gonna dissolve it, you can just keep going. But then the fact that Jefferson County is growing as fast as it is, as well as us, is throwing this additional monkey wrench into the whole language of it. And we definitely, like Sean says, don't wanna be forced into making our girls play up in AA. They'll really probably struggle to be really competitive at that level. It'll just be kind of brutal for them. So if we petitioned and weren't allowed to stay in A, then that's when we probably have to decide, maybe dissolve it at that point. Now I'm tracking, sorry.
Okay. Okay, any additional questions on our administration reports? Okay, seeing none, then we move on to our trustee and committee reports of the board. And I believe that the only group that met was, as a group, was strat planning.
Yeah.
And so that we've, that will be reported in the next item, which is our strategic planning and scan for future needs. And Dan, I'll let you pick that up.
Yeah, first of all, I felt like the last two sessions that we've had with Deborah have been pretty productive. Kind of anxious to see what she comes up with. Sounded like when we left at the last meeting that she was hoping to have something back to us by May for trustees to review, if I remember right. And so we'll kind of see what that process looks like when she gets that done. In terms of our own facilities needs and internal status, I just wanted to make sure that trustees were aware that we are planning for a long-term infrastructure committee meeting the evening of April 27th, which is 2 weeks from tonight. That'll most likely be in the high school library. And so I'll work on getting an announcement out this week, so you can plan on that. There are 3 trustees, you're gonna have to help me out, Scott, who are assigned to the infrastructure committee, but any trustee could attend if they want to, and we'll post it as a public meeting. You know who the 3 that
I knew you were gonna pull that on me.
Yeah, sorry.
I should have just grabbed it. Yeah,
I think it is too.
and I thought it was 2, actually, not the 3.
Oh, maybe it is just 2.
I've got it for you here. Stacy and
Stacy and
Scott.
myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll be on the professional development committee, yeah, so, yeah, Stacy and myself.
Other than that, that's kind of all I've got right now.
Okay. I wasn't sure whether or not to share this under the committee reports or under the strat planning, so I chose to share this under the strat planning. I attended the national conference for COSBA about a month ago. It was the day after our regularly scheduled meeting. I was elected to attend that. And a lot of what they talked on the national level was local boards setting up strategic plans and coming up with long-term goals and moving forward. And as I was having these discussions with these people, it dawned on me how far advanced that these Helena Public Schools have been in taking a leadership role in setting up a strategic plan and moving forward with the elements of that strategic plan. It was kind of uplifting for me to hear, at a national level, where we sit against other school districts. And so that says volumes to us and to their district. And then I had the opportunity to attend board of directors meeting for MTSBA just this last week. And I was cornered by Deborah Silk. And she mentioned about how well she thought our strategic planning meetings have been going over the last couple of times. She said that the board has been very insightful. The notes that you had provided, Stacy, were well mentioned. Tyrell's comments made during the meeting were, she's very impressed. I mean, she's really happy with what we are providing input on it and moving forward, how that strategic planning is developing. And so I just wanted to share that, because for our facilitator to come up, and she's not one to just give false praise. She's very sincere when she gives it, so that was also something I thought I wanted to share as well. So, do any of the other members of the board have anything as far as vision of our long-term needs and or development of our strategic plan beyond what we've got going on?
Did we set up the next meeting yet?
We haven't scheduled it, and I think how we left it was we were waiting to hear from Deborah as to how she wanted to handle it. Didn't she talk about creating a survey?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of the next step, is getting that survey and getting the feedback back and then sharing that with trustees. And then I think she'll probably ask if we want to meet for a third meeting to kind of finalize everything and work it into the plans.
And she had mentioned to me probably May, June type of deal. It might take that long for her to get the survey developed, get it out and distributed, and then responses back and collated. So it might take a little bit longer. So it's not something that'll happen immediately. Okay, any other thoughts, either from the board or from the audience on the district strategic plan? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to notifications of retirements and resignations.
There are 4 in your, in the board packet. KitchenAid, a paraprofessional at Radley, Tristan Fuller, and then 2 teachers, Andrew Bodecker and Brad Paskey, both at the high school, who are leaving us for other opportunities. Paskey is a CTE teacher that's going to be possibly a tough one for us to replace. We're going to talk about it this morning.
And you have accepted those on
Yes.
our behalf?
Yes, I have.
Okay, any questions for Dan on the notifications, retirements, and resignations? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent action items. Before the board this evening, we have the minutes of our regularly scheduled meeting held March 9th, as well as our special meetings held February 24th, April 1st, and April 7th. We also have former and current warrants, personnel actions, and our surrounding school district enrollment approvals. Typically, there is no debate on consent action items. However, if any member of the board wishes to do so, they can ask to have an item pulled off and have it debated separately. Otherwise, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent action items as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent action items as presented.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Yeah.
Second from Stacy. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. The motion carries. Okay, we'll now move on to unfinished business, and the first item is our levy update and discussion.
All right, well, things are rolling with the levy. I feel like because of some uncertainty that we had at the start, we got a little bit of a slow start coming out of the chute, but I'm not sure that that's necessarily a bad thing. I feel like if you spend too much time promoting your levy, sometimes people get bored with your message and move on with their lives. So it's kind of fast and furious. Ballots are to be mailed on Friday of this week is my understanding, so registered voters should be seeing those ballots in their mailbox. Maybe Saturday, but most likely Monday would be my best guess. We do have a school funding information night set up for next Tuesday night at Missouri River Brewing at 6:30. That'll be mostly Q&A, a short presentation. It was kind of a basic overview of how the district finances work and the basis of the request for the levy, and an opportunity for folks to ask questions. And try and get one more of those set up yet, possibly at Life Point Church, but I haven't got that scheduled yet, but I'll let you know if we get that on the schedule. Other than that, we do have the Montana Organized for Education, MOFI is what they're called, they are doing a postcard. Did she say this early?
Same day as the ballots.
Okay, 17th. And then there's gonna be an additional mailer to registered voters that will go out about a week later. And that's being organized through, the local, association and MFPE.
Can you elaborate on the postcard thing? The email had zero context. I got it and had no idea what was going on in it.
Oh, about the postcards?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you wanna talk about that a little bit, Kate?
It was just, there was just not a lot of context, and it was just kind of random, so I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, because you didn't get our first email.
I'm not getting any of your emails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm sending it to the board's school board email address, and I didn't know if anyone was getting any of my emails. But if not, then I should contact them. So, the union's sending out an informational postcard to every registered voter in Usana. And, instead of paying for labels, I've asked people if they want to take some home to label them for us. And then we'll pay for the postage.
Awesome.
It's like kind of a big commitment, because it's like, I'm asking you to label 100 of them.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, I will respond to your
Okay.
email. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I would have no context if you did the first one.
It was, yeah, I just got a little confused, so thank you for clarifying that. So, how did last Wednesday go, Dan?
Good, I thought,
We had a lot of good discussion.
had about 6 or 8 people
Yeah.
come, and good conversation, and, some of the stuff that we're talking about came out of that, Stacy was there. And, I mean, I feel like we've got, some passionate advocacy. I know if you're on Facebook, you've seen Kate's been kind of a warrior for the district on, Facebook in regards to the levy, so that's been, really nice having her in our corner, just sharing information and being willing to answer questions that folks might post on there, so. Yeah, overall, I'm kind of curious to see what our turnout looks like next week. Go from there.
And in that same vein, I'm not going to corner anybody specifically, but is there a feel for how many of the board members might be able to attend that meeting on the 21st?
I have it on my calendar.
And I plan on being there, so. Okay. Okay, and that's fine. We just need to be kind of careful when we're in a meeting or a group like that. Probably try to stay separated as much as possible so that it doesn't appear like we're convening at all. We are gonna trip over each other, I guarantee it. That's usually what happens, but just so that there's not the appearance that we're convening, then just keep that in mind. Okay, any other questions on our levy update? Okay, seeing none, then we'll go on to our non-resident application update.
Yeah, that document's in your packet. Jen and I were just actually talking about this right before we came over here. What you'll notice in that, actually I think I can share it with you here for those in the public. Try to catch up here. So this first column lists our currently enrolled students who are applying for admission for next year. And you'll see that number's at 174. Does anybody notice anything about that? And I'll just tell you the answer. Last year at this time, it was 217. So that really caught my eye because we've been hovering at or above 200 non-resident students for a long time. The fact that the number has dropped down that much is reflective of a couple things, I think. One is there's a bit of a perception out there that it's not easy to get your kids into the East Helena schools, and I think people are just hesitant to ask. And honestly, that's part of the reason that Jefferson County High School is seeing an enrollment increase, is the number of kids that are asking to come from Montana City has really dropped off in the last few years. And a lot of kids just decided, and Jefferson County, they built a nice addition on their high school too in the last couple of years if you haven't been down there. So it's attractive to kids to be attending there. And so that's been kind of a side benefit to them. But This is an issue that we've talked about a lot. We talked about it with the infrastructure committee, we talked about it in strategic planning, is that, you know, the board's gotta manage this non-resident enrollment a little bit in order to, feel like we're using our facilities to the best of our abilities and to their capacity for our kids. And the other reason I think the number is dropping is with the change in the law and our new policy, we don't accept non-resident students on a rolling basis throughout the year. So our policy allows us to accept applications from January 1st until April 15th. And then usually by the June board meeting, we make those decisions if we need to consider not accepting anybody or if we can just approve them all. And that's based on numbers and enrollment. And so because of that, we're not getting a lot of families knocking on our door in October or November. And we do get calls in the spring where they say, well, you know, I want to transfer my kid in. And we're like, well, you can apply now for next fall. And then that's not the answer that they're looking for. So that's had an impact as well. But the other thing that I want to point out about it is even though that our enrollment is down 43 out of district kids from last year, our overall enrollment is up 15 from last year. So that's a net gain of what, 60 or 58 students that are resident students that have filled those spots. So just kind of an observation for you to make note of. Once the application window closes on Wednesday, we'll crunch these numbers a little harder with principals, and next month we'll be able to give an update as to what we anticipate we might be up against, because there is a possibility that at certain grade levels we may actually have to consider turning away students because of our quality student, what's the word in the strategic plan? Quality education enrollment guideline in the strategic plan. And so we'll have to look at those numbers. I know we talked about it in infrastructure a while back. Stacy had asked what those enrollment numbers look like. I emailed them out to you. And if you went through them, so there were some classrooms and grade levels where we were knocking on the door of being over our own limit, let alone getting up to the state limit. So we may have some hard choices there, and we'll be able to talk a little bit more about that once we get the full picture after the application window closes.
Dan, if a child's been in the district, do they have priority over a new applicant?
Yeah, so we laid those priorities out when we adopted the policy, and then the board doesn't always review procedure, but on that one, the board did weigh in on it. And I can get you a copy of it. Actually, I'll send it to all of you guys so you have a refresher. There is a order of priority if we feel like we're at capacity where we consider those applications, and prior enrollment is one of them.
Dan, are any of the students that, we had a history of out of district becoming in district?
As in moving in?
Yeah.
Occasionally, and sometimes you get those requests, like we're building a house out on Spokane Creek Road, but we live up Remini right now, so we want to start the kids in school. We get those once in a while, but I don't really know if there's any of those in this school.
I'm just kind of curious if you have any of these numbers.
I would have to check with Jen on that.
It's not necessary
There's
now.
3 right now that I know of at the high school.
That are gonna move into the district?
They're
Okay.
currently building houses that's been delayed. And so they filled out applications even though they're planning on moving in October. We haven't filled out applications anyway.
That'll be important too.
And then what about vice versa?
That happens more frequently if folks move out of the district and just want to keep their kids at least to finish out their grade or the school that they're in. And we allow them to finish out the semester. But a lot of times they want to stay, until, say, the end of 5th grade if they're at Radley, or maybe through their entire schooling. And that does happen quite frequently, that we hold on to those kids. And so that may drive some of those, like I said, they're going to be difficult decisions. And it comes down to if everything else is the same in terms of priorities, then it's the time and date stamp that the application is received.
questions? Any questions for Dan from the public? Okay. Seeing none, we'll now move on to new business, and the first item under new business is a Booster Club presentation regarding a baseball facility fundraiser. And Dan, I'll let you introduce
All right.
representative.
Juliet's here to talk with us. So, this is a project that has been in the conversation phase for almost a year, maybe longer than that, actually. And Juliet Hahn from Boosters is here. She's gonna visit with us a little bit about a project that Boosters is contemplating getting involved with parents of our baseball program.
Want me to stand up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I'm probably the least qualified person to talk about building a baseball field, but I'm here, so, are you
I can click through these.
driving this? Okay, cool. So, our agenda, right, just some of this stuff is self-explanatory, our background, why we need a baseball field, Booster Club's role, our funding initiatives, and ideas that we have to raise the money, planning and construction of the field, and then the community impact that building a field will have. So yeah, the background, right? Why we need a baseball field. Just move forward. Okay, so our existing facilities. You know, a lot of our teams, I didn't include wrestling on here, not for any reason, I realized it after the fact, but we have a lot of sports teams that already have designated facilities, right? So wrestling has a gym, volleyball has a gym, basketball has a gym, like, and they all share that space, but softball has its own field. Football, soccer, girls flag football, we all share the football field, but baseball, unfortunately, right, doesn't have a field. So that's our existing on-site facilities. Baseball travels off-site for their competitions and practice. So that's our key gap. That's why we're here talking about building a baseball field. And then regional comparison of, you know, this has the other similarly sized schools in the region. I would say probably not in the region, more like in the country have their own facilities, but we anticipate, you know, Helena High, Capital High getting their own baseball team soon, and then our access to the facilities that we're currently using will be limited. So that's one of the reasons why we would like to consider this. Okay, challenges without a dedicated field, just elaborating on this more, right? Limited practice time, difficulty hosting home games. That also impacts, right, your team culture, your community culture, the community's ability to show up at those games and support the kids that are in it outside of the parents who are involved in the program. Logistical challenges, I have a freshman who doesn't drive, and it's a pain in the butt to even get to the high school, right? So I can only imagine having to get your freshman kid to practice, to and from practice over at Ryan Fields where they're practicing now in town. And then classroom opportunities, I personally, like I coach girls flag football, having the opportunity to bring the girls from the field into a classroom or vice versa, and not having to do it, you know, because it's just a spur of the moment thing, right? It's something you can plan into your practice. That's really beneficial, and that's something that our baseball kids don't get to take advantage of unless it's a pre-planned, you know, classroom opportunity, just because of the distance between the school facility and the fields. And then long-term impact, right? You see maybe, I guess, a decrease in competitiveness, increase in travel costs, and a risk of declining fan attendance without a dedicated field. So benefits of a baseball field, I think, are the opposite of all of those things, right? Student development, enhanced practice facilities, more home games, which, you know, I think when you look at some of the other sporting events that we have, I mean, even girls flag football, we probably have more home fans that show up, the student population who shows up at our games, just because we're playing at home. And the baseball kids don't get to experience that home game environment. You also get improved athletics, athletic experience, skill growth, teamwork, all of those fun things. Again, community engagement, I can foresee if we have a baseball field at the high school, you know, those kids walking home from school and there's practice or there's a game from Radley, right? They're walking past the high school or EVMS walking home and they're like, hey, let's go stop by and see what the high schoolers are doing. So you're just building that community engagement and culture around what we're trying to build in East Helena. And then obviously the opportunity for economic impact, if we're hosting tournaments or just charging for admission, things like that, having our snack shack open so that other school teams can run that and raise money for their teams. There's just an opportunity for revenue. So where are we proposing to put the baseball field? This is not drawn to scale. I do not know if that's how big the baseball field will be or if that's even where home plate will be. But generally speaking, that's sort of like where the group is proposing we put the field. That field would replace the 2 existing practice fields that are currently sitting in that space. And what that would mean is that, football, soccer, javelin, discus, all of those sports would have to move. And we're proposing to move those, practice field locations to where that yellow highlighted area is. We don't have the drawings yet, but we have confirmed that space would be appropriately sized to take on whatever we're moving there. And then there's also an idea like that spot that's on the other side of the softball field, is that to the north? Yeah, that potentially that could be another soccer practice field or just a grass field that kids could warm up on or whatever, because I know football uses that space heavily where the baseball field is proposed to be. So it would definitely impact people in a negative way, but we're hoping that there's obviously some give and take, and having a baseball field would be beneficial for the baseball team, and then we've got some alternatives to move that space somewhere else that is currently being used. Okay, so Booster Club's role, we are, if you don't know, you can skip to the next one, yeah. Our mission is to support East Helena High School athletics and all the clubs that the students participate in. We do have a strong community presence and engagement with a lot of different individuals. We get a lot of people who volunteer to run our Booster Club trailer at all the home games. And so we're just, our mission is to just support the kids in any way that we can, bridging the gap between what the school can provide, what the district can provide, and what we can obviously fundraise for them. So yeah, I mean, this says, $40,000 annually, that's a national number. I think we definitely raise more than that. I think our last year's numbers were about $30,000 that we give back to the school. We only really give what we're asked to give, so it's not necessarily a representation of what we could give. And the next slide talks about exactly what our funding ideas are for this project in particular, which Booster Club would like to be the first donor of $50,000 towards this project specifically. So when we talk about our funding strategies and events that we can have, there's a couple different options. Obviously, having community events, crowdfunding, grants, and then business sponsorships. So our community fundraising events, our big one is casino night. This year, if we move forward with this, right, the goal is that all the money raised from casino night would go towards this project specifically. And we've never really designated what our money is going to when it comes to casino night. We've just been saving it for this big project. So we do have more of it. But I think the idea was, hey, let's be the first ones to put that $50,000 number out there and see, if we can get anybody to match us. And then grants, I've been researching a little bit about grants. There are definitely grants out there for building baseball fields. There's also money out there for replacing baseball fields. So that's a consideration when we talk about an 8 to 10 year plan as far as replacing whatever the turf, maintenance might be. And then also business sponsorship. So the bigger plan here would be that the majority of the funding for this project initially would come from business sponsorships within the community. And what that looks like, we can scroll to the next slide, right, is this partnership model where we create different tiers that businesses can contribute to, and then we would recognize, you know, their contribution on the baseball field, like a permanent, you know, plaque or something on the dugout. We have been holding off on securing any of these funds because of this presentation and wanting, you know, your support in what we're doing. So, I don't know what the next one says, Dan. Okay, the construction. Again, I'm the least qualified person to talk about this, but hopefully you have the information that you need. So, the initial numbers, I believe this is prepared by Dick Anderson, is a budgeting resource allocation of $2 million to get us what we need to be able to play on a baseball field. There's been numbers thrown out between $2 and $4 million, depending on, you know, what the haves or what the wants are versus what the needs are. So the initial plan is to focus on specifically what are the needs. And so it's just under $1.5 million to build the baseball field. Plus we've added in another $500,000 to move the existing javelin and discus fields over to that other space that was highlighted. And then the $615,000 is, those are wants. You know, it'd be great if we had lights, but who knows, we don't need those quite yet. So in terms of, yep, you can go to the next one. In terms of like, how do we plan on getting there and what do we do, you know, with this money as it starts coming in? So realizing that $2 million is a lot of money to raise, and you know, I'm very optimistic that we can get there, but who knows how long that'll take, and you know, what do we do in the interim if we get, say, only $500,000? So Booster Club's plan is to secure funding from pledges. No construction or any kind of commitments would occur until at least $2 million was received in pledge funding. Once we hit that goal, then we would go out and ask, you know, the businesses to write Booster Club a check. All that money would go into an individual baseball account. We don't want to promise people that we're going to use their money to build a baseball field and not be able to do it. So we know we need at least $2 million to get the project started. That would be phase one. Once we had the funding, then we would move forward with, right, designs and permits, breaking ground and turf installation. So it's estimated about 12 to 18 months after the funding is secured. You know, who knows how long it could take us to raise $2 million. I don't know. So then, community impact, you know, future opportunities. I think a lot of this, we probably all in this room understand. Athletic excellence and academic benefits go hand in hand. And then obviously your health improvement just by being physically active. And then the next slide just talks about, right, that again, that increased community involvement and our ability to get, you know, younger grades engaged with what's going on in the high school and develop, you know, stronger ties. So the last slide just talks about our, you know, conclusion, kind of summarizing what we've talked about here. What we're asking from this board would be, right, to acknowledge that we want to move forward with this effort and support the fact that if we raise $2 million and we come to you and say, here's $2 million, you're gonna let us build a baseball field on your property. Questions?
Thanks, Julia.
Yep. There's a slug of them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, with board members, does any of the board members have any questions for, go ahead.
Are we using gold dirt? $2 million with dirt, I know, my husband.
I did not create the
construction.
quote.
I just always am like flabbergasted at the amount of.
I was with you there, like $680,000
I got a
for
tractor,
the
I'll
grass. I was like,
compose
holy cow, it's a lot of, I'm not saying it's not true.
You what?
$680,000 in grass. That's
So
like,
the turf field.
what's it, turf, that's plastic?
Yeah.
$680,000 worth of plastic. It's even worse. Why is it being irrigation?
It needs drainage.
It's a drain.
And irrigation, both are in
You
there.
gotta keep it cool when it gets too hot. So
Oh my
you know,
God.
It's like a big soggy nut. It's still water.
I was like,
I know so little, I don't know.
So a couple questions, and you touched on it, but a couple of questions I had. One was, you mentioned about the regional aspect of it. You said that that statement was more probably nationwide. My question for you is are there any of the school districts within the state of Montana that have a dedicated baseball field at this time? That's a school
Yeah.
district dedicated.
My understanding is no.
Okay.
Again,
You might be right, so most of them are probably municipal
I think they're used-
property
yeah.
that either belong to the city or the county in the area where they're at. But I don't have hard numbers on that as to if there are any districts that actually own their own facilities at this point.
And then the second question I had, and you touched on it too, and I missed it, was the relocation of the Javelin facilities, or whatever you said, was in the estimate, or it is not in the estimate? Because
It's not, it wasn't on the screen, but it's in the 2 million.
it's within 2 million,
Yeah,
so,
so
okay.
we estimated that it was about 500,000 to move the dirt and get that area leveled and, yeah, ready for, and that would be grass.
Okay, I'm having a tough time.
Yeah, I'm not
The 615,000 is not included in the 2 million.
Okay, so the 500K is added into the 1.48
Correct.
to get to the 2 million for the basics.
Correct.
And then that Javelin is in the 615.
No, the Javelin's the 500K, so
It's not actually on the screen.
throw in a line item on top of 500K.
Oh, for 500, okay.
That replaces the field.
Okay.
Yeah, and our thought is like, right, phase 2 would be the field lights and all the, the electrical things. And, knowing that probably we would have some families that would wanna contribute, like maybe not in a $10,000 range, but $1,000 range or something, right, like individual families. That could be part of more of a phase 2 fundraising effort to get the community involved in fundraising for $615,000.
So Julia, I guess I got the question, based on these numbers, these are today's dollars, correct?
Yes.
Just recently got from Dick Anderson, not based on any kind of plans or anything like that, so they don't know quantities or anything associated with that, so these are kind of shot in the dark.
I think they did actually have initial plans drawn up. Those were shared with me, I can share those with the board, but I don't know how accurate they are or how these numbers reflect the drawings that were done.
Some of these are pretty specific values, others are, $233,800 for earthwork is pretty specific. I guess my question is there any kind of contingency associated with these and inflation? Because for every year, especially when we're talking a $2 million project, if you've got just a few percent of inflation, that might be $100,000 of that project every year. So
Sure.
if you're not gaining more than 100K a year, you're never gonna get to
Yeah.
the point of construction.
And I guess and I don't know the answer to that question. My thought would be too that Booster Club would need to build some very strict parameters around like, hey, how long is this pledge valid for? And if somewhere along the line this falls apart because we received a new estimate that was entirely outside of the scope of what we thought we were capable of doing, we would, pull back and reevaluate. That's my thought, at least.
Because in the engineering world, where I live, at this level, this would be like a planning level estimate. You'd probably put like a 30% contingency associated with this, that's $700,000. So now you're looking at 2.7 million worth of a project. That increases, there goes, now you're all the lights and everything, and you haven't even gotten into
Sure.
that as well. And that's assuming that we're following today's dollars.
Yep.
So, I guess I'm just a little concerned with some of those costs associated with it. And then I think the area, the plan is, if not it's very near the floodplain. So there's some additional permitting there that may need to be associated with, depending on what kind of facilities are in place. That's where the engineering would be, good to know, so that's up front, so that's part of there. And then we have inspection and construction support for when we actually build it, because that's a cost as well, to make sure the concrete materials are all built correctly, you know, welding, everything else, because if we've got backstop, we don't want any of that kind of stuff falling over. I mean, I know these are real detailed questions, but these are where I'm gonna be going, looking
Sure.
to try and answer these, as well as, maintenance costs, kind of what replacement, costs would be potentially. And then from Dan, I guess, do we have enough FTE to handle the additional maintenance? Because, an additional field is not easy. You just throw out another, I mean, most baseball fields are 300 foot to the, side, you know, the edge lines, and 400 foot to the
If it
center.
ends up being an artificial turf field, that's way easier. I mean, like the football field, for instance, doesn't take a ton of work. Like, we don't have to stripe it before games, obviously we don't have to mow it. We have to put out all the, you know, equipment and markers for the game, but you'd have to do that on any field. If it ends up being a grass field, that's where we'd end up with, you know, we'd actually probably need some equipment for dragging the infield, and probably at that point, we may have to consider like another mower and additional staff for that. But right now, these numbers are looking at a turf field, and that's something that we've kind of batted around back and forth between the parents and myself and boosters. It's like, well, what about a grass field? It might be cheaper. You know, logically, it seems like it would be cheaper. But then you have to factor in irrigation, and like Terrell's pointing out, you got the ongoing maintenance, and then there's this whole issue lurking in the background in that, well, we put in an artificial turf field for girls softball. If we don't match that like for like, is that a Title IX violation between a boys sport and a girls sport, and the type of facility that we're providing for them? So those would all be things that we'd have to kind of flesh out, and I kind of think that's why Boosters is stuck with the artificial turf in the estimate, is because, and I do think it costs more. I think we went back through those old documents, the grass field was less. It wasn't, you know.
I seem to remember like 400K less.
Yeah,
It
right.
wasn't a lot of difference,
Yeah.
but when we looked at this a long time ago.
And at that time, when we were looking at that, there were parents who were just like, well, the boys would prefer to play on real grass rather than turf anyway. And I don't know if that's a sentiment that's still out there, but those are some things that I think could get worked out as we get working on the project, I guess is what we're trying to say.
Would Title IX apply to the lights, the scoreboards, that kind of
Could.
stuff as well?
It could,
Okay.
yeah. You know, the thing about those types of complaints is it's not an issue until somebody complains, right? I think at this point, if we built it without lights, parents would be like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. We're, you know, but down the road, a future superintendent and school board might have to deal with it.
You know what the cost was to build softball fields?
What's that?
Do you have a total budget cost of, or the final cost of what it was to build the softball fields?
Oh, from when we actually built it in 2020? I don't. I could go back and look, but I don't know if it was really broken out that way.
Kind of lump sum, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that whole facility, at that time, I know the upgrade to go to turf was around 600,000, and we really had to stretch in the budget to make that work. And that was for both fields, but cost increases have been in that area too. Because there's a whole different level of like dirt work that's required for artificial turf, because it's just dirt underneath there, and it has to be laser graded. And like they've got in the plans here, you have to put in a drainage system so that when it rains really hard, it doesn't turn into a lake. And, so there's just some other complicated engineering to go along with it.
I had a couple of questions. Do you know what it costs the baseball program to use the field it does now? Would there be some savings?
Yeah, I think they said it was like $7,500, and then maybe there was another 1,000 in there for something.
Yeah, it was
I
around
feel like it was about 8,000 or somewhere
Actually,
around
our
there.
claims
The
is
claims was
$7,500.
Okay. So one question I had was, in terms of the location, it gives me pause only because, like, first of all, I think I think if we could raise the money and like, I'm all for it, like, a rising tide lifts all boats, I'm 100% in favor of it. The question I have is like, how does that work in our strategic plan? Is that the only place? Is there non-school property, perhaps city property it could go on? Just because I look at that, I think like, oh, we are creating, as you acknowledge, very openly, we're creating other problems. There's 2 fields there now, right? It looks like.
I think it's the preferred location, because it's on campus. I mean, anything else we look at is gonna be farther away from the school. I guess I feel like tonight, I don't necessarily think that the board's approving that final site for it. More, what I think Boosters is asking for is the approval to move forward with the understanding that it's gonna be built on our property someday. There is a chance that we could partner down the road with the city or the county if they had a suitable location for it. I'm just not sure where that would really be.
What our piece of property up on Runkle?
Well, that's a possibility, yeah. And, it's actually nice and level now, I was telling
So we
Scott.
get the grading
Tyrell.
done yet, better like leave that in there.
Yeah.
And then my other question was, it's like a staggering number for all of you as well, I'm sure. You're like, oh my gosh, like, how are we gonna do this? Is there any kind of phased, I understand the equity issue, deal with that. I mean, the obvious question for a layperson is like, which I've looked on Google, like, why can't you use the same field as softball? Like, I understand there's different phases and perhaps it diminishes both sports, but in some aspect. And you could address that if you want.
I think, I guess, and again, not an expert. I think that you could convert a softball field into a baseball field. I think that's not the preference. I also know that some of our football teams, me in particular, flag football, we get pushed to the softball field all the time. And granted, I mean, sometimes, obviously, we're not in season right now, but there's a fight for field space. I mean, we don't have enough field space. There's a fight for gym space. There's a, so I think that creating another space where softball and baseball could, have, and why not convert the softball field into a baseball field and have a tournament at East Helena? If you have 2 baseball fields to be able to play, like that's a revenue generating event, that if that's not, I don't know if it's not,
Totally.
I have no idea. I think baseball's preference is that they have their own space. And I do know, we share the field with soccer, and my personal experience, right? We share the field with soccer and football, and it's not fun to share. It's just not.
It's one of the great disappointments of my adult life.
To be the bigger person all the time.
So that's another question I have. So I just speaking out loud, I would say like, I'm thrilled by the idea. I find it hard to believe that there could be a smaller phased money way to do it. I don't know if there is. And the other thing is, I would like more integration of meaning the school district's planning, experience, resources, whatever, in like, could we make it a dual purpose field? And could there be in the outfield? I don't know, I don't have any idea. But
Yeah.
I love the idea, but, yeah, that's all. And like, is there a better spot for it? Because there are people that do this professionally.
Yeah, so that corner where it's laid in that drawing right now that's what SMA came up with when we asked them, where should we put a baseball field on our property? It doesn't mean it's the only spot. And I think, if we get started with this project and start raising money, we can start seriously asking and looking at the rest of our properties. Like Tiffany mentioned, that 9 acres up in Mountain View Meadows it's actually a beautiful piece of property. It's got incredible views from up there. Would be a great spot to watch a baseball game too. So we may decide down the road that maybe there's another parcel that would be more suitable or better use. And that would save money for relocating the other fields, if that ended up being something that we want to consider. So I guess to go back to what I said earlier, I think that the location still kind of remains to be finalized. It doesn't really matter where we build it, that we still got to raise a fair amount of money to even get get started on it. And I think that's what you guys are asking for right now, is just that the board's gonna cooperate and accept this field at some point. And you guys will be back to talk about those finer details when we got $2 million in the bank.
Yeah, I think we all know this is gonna be a lot of work, and I in particular don't wanna put in the effort if it's not going to be something that, if we do accomplish it, right, it's not something we would ever move forward with. So I think that how Dan worded it is perfect. We wanna be able to tell people, if we raise this money, we're gonna build a baseball field.
You said there were grants, do you know how much some of the grants offer?
No,
I'm just curious.
I need to research more about it. It was like a quick search and I was like, okay, check mark, come back to these. I think it depends on what you're gonna use the money for. Some of them were for building the actual structure, the field itself, and then others were like equipment. So I need to research more what that looks like.
One caution with grants is oftentimes they wanna have projects shovel ready. So if grants are applied for, I'd look at that real hard, where that obligation date is as far as the funds, because if you're not ready to build, it can be a real rush to the finish line to get things done.
Well, if I get a $2 million grant, I'll be back here with some plans, real quick.
I guess I have one question, Dan.
Yeah.
We have, is there any, I don't know the answer to this, I haven't dealt with this. Can we, on our property, allow this without it being under board direction? Because I think we have some school policy that says facilities constructed for student use need to be
Yeah,
reviewed, approved.
Scott and I talked about that a little bit. One, we would have to explore that with legal when we get to that point, but one option would be at that point is the boosters collect the $2 million, donate it to the school district administers the project and generals or hires a general contractor to come in and do that work. So again, that's remains to be seen, but it's not like a bunch of dads are gonna show up on Saturday with shovels and start moving rocks around.
No, agreed, I mean, I would not, there's, and don't get me wrong, I mean, it's not like I'm not in support of this.
Right.
I just wanna make sure that we cross T's,
Right.
dot I's, because I don't wanna get 3/4 of the way through, or, you know, God forbid, we actually get under contract with something, and then we find out that we can't accept it, or
Right.
something of that
And,
nature.
yeah, and these are all really good questions, and it's part of the reason that I think Boosters is being asked to take the lead on it is, we were advised through legal that the district didn't really want to be, they didn't really want the district to be the recipient of the funds initially, and felt that it would be better if an outside entity was controlling that part of it. But when the time comes to actually start building, the mechanics of that, we're gonna have to explore what our best avenue is gonna be for that. And that, the way it may end up having to work is that the money gets donated into the district and put into a grant fund, and then the district uses out of that grant fund to pay the folks working on the project, so.
And this is kind of a chicken and the egg thing, because the booster doesn't want to go through the effort of trying to capture $2 million or $3 million in donations unless there's a commitment from the board and the district that we would accept that and build a baseball field on it. But by the same token, with the questions that we're talking about, we don't want to make a commitment to have that on our property unless we know that the financial capacity is there and throughout the entire project. So it's very difficult to do it this way, and I realize that. There's a couple of things that we can do. One of the things I thought of earlier today actually was whether or not we wanted to forego the decision tonight and have it introduced somewhat in long-term infrastructure committee meeting here in 2 weeks. That way it would give a little bit broader insight to the community's level of support for something like that in relationship to the school district. That was one thing. We could make the decision tonight, and that there's absolutely no problem doing that either. We could go ahead and say, yeah, we're committed to do it. If the $2 million or $3 million shows up, that we would, commit to it. Or we can tell the boosters that thank you for the offer, but at this point in time, we're not prepared to make that level of commitment. So those were the three options that I came up with, just at the top of my head, but I'm open to additional thoughts.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm gonna be difficult, sorry. My concerns are they currently use two of the fields over at wherever.
Right.
So are they gonna be satisfied with one, or are they also gonna need an additional practice field for JV to practice on? And they don't always use two of the fields, but they do use two fields. And then my other concern is if we exhaust our community with donations for the field, where does that lay all of our other sports that are trying to, that also very heavily rely on business donations to field their seasons? Because there are a lot of sports within our districts and clubs that rely heavily on different donations to get through the season. And then we also talk about, we've had other sports with other requests come up as well. And so are they just falling to the back burner, or where does that put them? And I agree, my son is on the team, and it is a pain in the butt going across town and trying to get him there 2 hours before his game day. It's requiring parents to take off time off of work to get there, and then take time off work to go watch his games. So not having that transportation, totally get it. Not having them on site, on campus, totally get it. So my questions are kind of just, my concern is all the sports in general and exhausting the fundraising from the community and taking that opportunity away from the rest of them and being able to support those programs to be able to continue to run efficiently how they need to run through their season.
Have we had another sport come and say, we'd like to raise money and have you use it in this manner? I'm not aware.
We had people bring up an aquatic center that they would love to have.
Have they said, we'll bring you the money?
No.
No.
I'm not trying to be,
No, but that has come up before.
Sure.
We would love to raise money for all of the sports, so I think the response would be like, just because we have all of these other needs doesn't mean we shouldn't start somewhere. And if it's better to start with a different sport, let's have that conversation. Baseball came to us, and that's why Boosters is saying, let's tackle this. When we have a meeting every month, and whoever comes, we address whatever requests they're asking of us, and no one else has come to us and asked us to raise $2 million. So, if they did, maybe we would.
Maybe you can find a professional baseball team like you did the flag football.
Well, that is an
build our
option.
field.
One question I have is, I guess I'm interested in what our relationship is with the boosters. And the reason I ask this is, if I were the boosters, and I don't know what that is, but I would proceed under some sort of memorandum of understanding. I would not want to be raising money with nothing more than a verbal, I mean, even if it's non-binding, that just says, this is our intent, and this is, so if I were you, that's what I would want from us.
Sure.
And I think reciprocally, I think that would be, so, but maybe that exists as a subtext in the boosters, I really don't understand.
Yeah, so the Boosters is a separate nonprofit that, that basically operates with the blessing of the board. They borrow our logo, our title, our name, not the board, but the high school's logo. We don't, like the board doesn't necessarily have any jurisdiction over the Boosters. But it's gotta be a.
But there's a pre-existing relationship.
Right, I mean, the Boosters aren't here for anything else than our kids. And that's what their main focus is, so, but I get what you're getting at, and obviously, we've never done anything like this before, so that, you know, some type of MOU is something that we could explore. If we decide to move forward, and, I don't know, I think Scott's kind of laying it out for us, like, do we want to wait and see how the conversation goes at infrastructure meeting in 2 weeks before taking any action? And I'm not quite sure what you're alluding to with that, other than possibly the infrastructure committee could look at a much larger project that could include the baseball field, is that what you're?
No, I was mostly considering that we only have 2 members on that committee. I was thinking more in terms of the other individuals that are part of that committee to gain a feel for what the community's enthusiasm maybe is for us doing that, committing a portion of our property for this avenue. And I mean, I don't know whether or not we're gonna be able to even gain enough insight based on a 2-hour meeting with the long-term infrastructure committee to be able to gauge that, but that was, like I said, it was a little rock tumbler of a head moment that I had this morning.
I guess I will say, I would like to see, if I were gonna vote on this, I'd be more comfortable with something that said, we don't have a location, we commit to either providing one or helping you find one. You know, and with a date certain and a period of time that you're gonna report back in 6 months or a year. That's just sort of like some guidelines in that sense. I think it would provide structure for everybody. That, I don't know.
Well, and I think that would allow time to research some of these other questions. I mean, with having potentially $700,000 in, you know, contingency of the unknowns of building. I don't know if there's any more remediation that needs to be done out there, you know, is that in the $230,000 report? Not sure, you know, I mean, because the EPA standards have changed since we, you know, built the school. That's, I mean, dirt work costs a pile of money, diesel's not cheap, especially right now. So, I don't know, I feel like, I like the concept. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with even kind of the 10,000 or 20,000 foot level details quite yet, just the long term, because in the end, we're gonna be responsible, or the district's responsible for maintaining and operating. And if we can't maintain and operate this stuff, then there's no point in building it to start with, at least not yet. You know, and that's something, who knows, maybe the levy will give us an insight into community supports there. I don't know, I mean, there's a whole bunch going on around. I'm not quite ready to jump in with both feet. But I like the concept. I mean, I don't wanna say, no, we're not gonna support it, but I'm definitely looking for some more information. That's my thoughts, Scott.
Has the Boosters gone to like the city of East Helena and asked if they have a piece of land that they would wanna make a baseball field?
The city of East Helena?
East Helena, sorry, East Helena.
No.
I'm just curious, like for backup plans, like, we have a backup plan, just.
No, the boosters' involvement is in this is like, hey, we'll raise you the money.
Right.
The baseball team, parents that were involved, right, like kids on the, parents of kids on the team and the coach, they sort of fed us a lot of this information. Our involvement is, we'll raise you the money. Tell us how much you need and we'll raise you the money.
We'd like to string up the messenger.
Catch me if you can.
So another possibility would be, I don't know if we have a committee, I think it'd be easier in a smaller committee. But do we have a committee that would be logical to approach this?
Well, doesn't the East Helena?
What's that?
Or infrastructure.
Infrastructure, and maybe, I mean, just literally sit down with, I don't know whether you as the boosters or they, and sort of make a framework.
There's a parent group that I think would be worthwhile to talk to.
Make a framework and then present it to the board and say like, these are, because a lot of it's real amorphous. I think it's a great idea, I just don't know how. So that would be my suggestion, would be maybe to assign it to the committee. Not mine.
No, you're not.
Some other committee.
Stacy, Carol, and myself,
And what's that committee?
the infrastructure and transportation. And we definitely can do that direction. I do not want, if there is a member of the board that wants to make a motion or move forward with it at this point in time, I would not prevent them from doing so though. So, but I don't think that's a bad idea.
And I'm also happy to make it. It was I'm happy to participate in that if somebody wants off.
May want a motion to table until the committee reports.
We really don't need to have any action on this, but yeah, that might be cleaner for us to just table, and refer to the infrastructure committee.
I'll make a motion to table it, and refer to the infrastructure committee.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Tyrell. Additional questions or comments from the board?
I wish it wasn't so difficult.
Questions or comments from the public? One thing I would like to say is that I very much appreciate your effort, Julia, and as well as the effort by the boosters at this point. And this has been a very generous offer, and it's very impressive that there's that level of support with your group for doing something like this. So I don't want it being misconstrued at all that our hesitancy is associated with us not supporting that group. There's definitely support for it. It just matters that there's a lot of underlying questions that I think this board needs to have ironed out before we make this level of commitment.
Sure.
So, any other questions, comments? Seeing that, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, by saying no. Motion carries. We will refer this to the infrastructure committee and we'll get it be established in the near term future for that.
Thanks, Julia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've never once asked for $2 million and gotten anything but a sound rejection. So, no, you're saying I'll help you.
You don't have
I
to
think
be
it's
friends.
incredible.
You haven't asked to yet. That's the problem.
Okay, next on the agenda is our advanced opportunity update presentation.
All right. With us tonight is Jill Hayter, who we hired last summer as our Advanced Opportunity Facilitator, the first ever in the district. Worked with us on finding, creating, and facilitating advanced opportunities for our students through things like work-based learning, school-to-work opportunities, internship opportunities, dual credit, dual enrollment, career fairs, and I guess I'll just shut up. I don't want to steal your thunder from your
I'll
slide.
take it from here.
Okay, all right.
Hi everybody, great to see you. I'm Jill Hayter, if you don't know me. I am super excited to give you my update about how this first year in this position is going. I did bring some seniors with me to talk about their experiences, so in a little bit they will have the show. So we can go to the next slide. So the role at a glance. These are kind of the main responsibilities that take up the most of my time this school year. So the first one just being exposing our students to career exploration opportunities like the job shadows, internships, informational panels, site visits. And then the next one that kept me pretty busy this year was building community partnerships. I am new to the East Helena community, so I had to use a lot of my time to make relationships with people in the community and the businesses, which is kind of super fun because I get to kind of go off-site and have some meetings with some new people, meet new faces, so that's always great, and it's fun for me to do that. And then the last thing, obviously, the student advising and coordination. So I had a lot of students, once they kind of knew who I was, come up to meet me. A lot of getting to know the students and getting to know their interests and what their future plans were. And if we didn't know where to go with a plan, it was kind of just figuring out what their interests were and get them in a direction. Go to the next one. So at the beginning of the school year, Ms. Morris and I sat down and created some goals for myself. So the first one, I really wanted to be a known, accessible resource for the students and the families of the school district. I was able to achieve this through communication, monthly communication. I put out newsletters to families once a month where I give updates about what's going on, anything coming up that their students can get involved in. And then another thing I did to become a known resource at the school district was at the beginning of the school year, I was able to give each grade level a presentation just to introduce myself, to let them know, hey, I'm a resource for you. Please come see me if you have career questions or any other questions. I'm housed in the counseling center, so it's really easy to find me. So that also helped. I was very accessible with my location. in the building. My next goal that we created was to provide structured career exposure activities for grades 6 to 9. These included a lot of guest speakers. So for example, here at the middle school, we were able to bring in a variety of guest speakers. We had an optometrist come in, an occupational therapist, so we had a health careers day. And then we did have a couple of trades come in to present about, we had an insulation company come in, talk about their business, and then we did have some military as well. So we were able to provide some career exposure activities for even the middle school level. And then looking towards the high school, we did a lot of the same stuff, just at the high school level. And our career fairs that we hosted were another source of exploration for our students, but I'll talk a little bit more about those later. The next goal we had was in collaboration with Helena College, CTE committees, community partners, build and expand work-based learning internship opportunities for students in grades 10 through 12. This is really exciting because I was able to organize over 50 work-based learning opportunities for our students in grades, not only 10 through 12, but 9 through 12 too. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of those specific opportunities, because some of them are pretty neat to share. And then the last one was launch a pilot internship and shadowing programs for high school students with at least 10 participants in the first year. I'm happy to say that we doubled that, and I was able to have over 20 students involved in either a job shadow or an internship, and I'll get a little bit more into that in the next slides. So, going off of my previous slide, I wanted to talk about some of my achievements that I'm pretty proud of for this school year so far. Like I said before, I had arranged over 50 career exploration opportunities for our students, and the year's not over yet. I'm not done yet. So, for example, I have some pictures here if you can see them, one of which is we were able to set up a tour for the Missoula Forensics Lab, and our Forensics 2 class was able to join us, so they gave us a tour through the whole lab. It was super cool. The kids got to do a lot of hands-on activities there. Sometimes they couldn't touch anything and they were kind of bummed, but they were really excited to join us. Another activity that I had planned was our Women in STEM Careers Day, which it was actually Toby's idea. She kind of came to me with this idea, I want to show students more women in STEM careers, and I want to bring people in and have them present to our students. So we were able to get about 15 to 20 presenters to come in. So we have a student here at that fair kind of checking out some science stuff, so that was pretty fun. Another achievement that I'm pretty proud of, going off of our career fairs again, I was able to organize 2 successful career fair events that not only included high school students, but we were able to invite the middle schoolers as well to get them involved. We had over 60 presenters at our main career fair, and that ranged from colleges to engineers to trades to healthcare. We had a pretty big variety of people that were there to present for our students, so it was really cool to see them walk around and interact with all these people. And one thing I always like to encourage is for our presenters to bring hands-on activities for our students, and they really did such a great job with that. I think all students were involved in some sort of hands-on activity while they were at the career fair. My next achievement I'm proud of would be that I did increase the internship and job shadow opportunities for our students. Like I said, we had over 20 students participating in an internship or a job shadow. And lastly, I wanted to share that I did increase credentials for our high school students. We currently have 7 students enrolled in a CNA licensing program through St. Pete's, 4 of which have passed already, and they have received job offers, which is super exciting, whether it's working at the hospital or working somewhere else in a facility where they can use that CNA license. And then 3 are going to be taking it in June. And then we have paid for all of that for them, so they don't have to spend a dime of their own money. So it's pretty exciting. And I will now talk about some of the really, really neat internships that my students are doing. So right here we have Kennedy. She's a 227 student. She's a junior. She currently is doing a internship at Edgewood Senior Living in the dining services. So before I have students go and start their internships, I have them make goals for themselves. Sometimes it's just get better with my social skills or learn a new skill. Hers was to improve her social skills and learn a new recipe. So here she is making snickerdoodles on her own, which is one of her goals. So it's super exciting to see her thriving in that environment. And a comment that I received from her supervisor, she said that since Kennedy has started, she has really come out of her shell, and it's really exciting to see. And now I can say that she actually just got a job offer at Edgewood, so now she's getting paid to do this. So it's super cool to see kind of where they started and how it's going. Another student, Aya, she is our foreign exchange student. She's a junior. She was able to do an internship, it's pictured here, with Montana Radio Company. She was actually on the Mighty Mo morning show a couple of weeks ago. It was the 6 a.m. show, and she got out of bed with a smile on her face, and she was really, really entertaining to listen to on the radio. And if any of you wanted to hear her, I have the files, so I can absolutely send them your way. But she did such a great job, and she was so enthusiastic about it, so it was really fun to see. Going back to our career fair participation and how I love to have a lot of hands-on opportunities for our student, it's pictured here. St. Pete's always does a great job bringing a ton of stuff for the kids to play with. We had a patient dummy here, and one of our freshmen was intubating the patient. She said she failed and she killed the patient, but that's okay. She was practicing, she was doing fine. And then up here we had Slate Electrical. They had students wiring and turning on light bulbs. I'm not really sure what was going on, but they were having a great time doing it. And then the last one, our business visits. I tried to get our students out to the Helena College Airport campus about once or twice a month. So right here we did our shadow day at Helena College, and these are a couple of our seniors who are actually going into their automotive program, and they're getting a hands-on experience in their automotive shop, which is super cool, super exciting. You go up one.
No, yeah.
Okay, I'll stop talking for a little bit. I'm gonna pass it over to Toby, and she's gonna talk to you about how this year's been going for her.
Hi everyone, I'm Toby Peck, I'm a senior, and I think it's safe to say I've been bothering Miss Hayter pretty much since he moved into that office. She has been so unbelievably amazing. Like she mentioned our Women in STEM career fair, I went to her and she was like, let's do it, and we started writing down names and that was it. One of the amazing opportunities she gave me was MDT's High School to Highways program. It has been incredibly eye-opening. I don't know if any of you in your senior year tried to dip your toe into engineering, but it's really, really hard to kind of know what to expect. And this has been just the most amazing experience. So I go about 2 days a week, and I rotate through all the sections, and I meet with a whole bunch of fun people, and they tell me about what they do and what they love, and they give me all their life advice, and it's truly one of the greatest things I've ever done. Ms. Hayter was super great. I walked into her office and I told her I didn't want to do a lame job because I felt like I was more than capable of working at a coffee shop. And she showed me this, and I wrote an interest letter that week and heard back the next, and then we were rolling. She's been super great. She helps me write emails all the time, so I sound much more professional. She let me use her office for the Zoom interview I did to get my internship, which was great. And then, again, just the emails because I was not communicating super well, so she was super helpful with that. That is a photo of us in a plane that we got to fly through my internship. Yes, I did make her go, and I got to fly, and she loved it.
I didn't know we were doing that. I was just seeing what she was up to for the day.
And then a little bit of what I do, the first section I started in was road design. We just kind of talked a lot about the very basic structure of a road, talking about alignments and super grades and crowns, and then I got to see a lot of like the CAD software that they use every single day, and kind of the processes they go through with projects. I also went through hydraulics, and there's a lot more that goes into choosing a culvert than I ever thought there was. So that was super interesting. And they we just did so much fun stuff, and then my favorite part of this whole internship has actually been getting to do a little bit of the job that they do. So like hydraulics had helped me delineate a basin, and I didn't do super good, but she was super helpful. And then geotech, I talked to a whole bunch, and everybody has just been super great resources, and these are just 3 examples. I mean, I've rotated through that whole building, I think. Even Tyrell here got stuck with me and my partner in crime one day, and it was a blast. So Ms. Hader has just been beyond helpful, and I would not have been able to do this or find this without her. So you can go to the next one, I'll show you more pictures.
Right.
This is us flying over the Capitol, which was really cool. And then that's a picture of the plane we flew. And then this is a drone from Photo and Survey. And then this is me, and I had to wheelchair around the building and around the Walmart intersection, which if you have ever tried to wheelchair around the Walmart intersection, it's really hard. So, I didn't get hit though, so it was okay. But I've been able to do a lot of really fun things.
Thank you, Toby. I'm gonna pass it along to Ryder, another senior I roped into coming to talk to you guys tonight. Go ahead, Ryder.
Hello, my name's Ryder. Miss Hader's been very helpful with helping me find a career. At first, I didn't really know what I want. I knew I wanted to go into the trades. I couldn't see myself sitting behind a desk. And she introduced me to something called Digger Days, which is basically an event where a lot of different companies get together with a wide variety of blue-collar jobs, and you interact and you actually do those jobs for about an hour, hour and a half each. And while cycling through on my very last station, there was a job of excavator operation. Now, I wasn't interested in the operation, but the company running it is called RDO. They are a John Deere dealership. They're international and all over the U.S., but they were looking for diesel technicians, which piqued my interest. And I told Ms. Hader about it. She was able to help me reach out to the recruitment manager called John. And then they don't have a Helena location, but they do have a Bozeman location, and the general manager for both the Bozeman and Great Falls location, named Brian, came down to the school. We had an interview, a little talk, and through that I was able to get a shop tour at Bozeman and have a job shadow there. And then just a few weeks later I was able to sign on with RDO, and through that agreement I'm getting $18,000 worth of tools, rent money while I'm in Bozeman working my internship during summers. They're going to pay for my college, and I have a guaranteed job right out of school. So I'm definitely super excited about that. If it wasn't for Miss Hader, I probably would have never found this path and had a career set up before I even graduated. So.
Thank you, Ryder. Awesome. All right, so on to the next. As we are approaching the end of this year, I don't know how it's almost the end of April. The time is flying. I have been looking towards next year and coming up with some goals to set for myself as I'm looking ahead. The first one, I would say I hope to increase my activity on social media. Currently, I am sharing a lot of my pictures and all the things I'm doing with Paul and Trish and with Lindsay, and they are posting them to the high school social media, but I hope to potentially create my own Instagram and Facebook page so that I can constantly be putting things out for students to see, just so they're aware of the opportunities that are happening, and then parents can kind of give their kids a little bit of a push to say, oh, why don't you go try that, or why don't you go talk to Ms. Hader, that looks really cool. So I hope to do that a little bit more next year. I hope to expand our student internships. I know I was just getting started this year. We had a handful of pretty exciting internships go on, but I hope to just get even more next year. So just kind of through creating more partnerships in the community and seeing what I can offer to our students. And then I really hope to expand more towards the elementary school level too. So I know I was able to get involved with middle school, which I hope to keep pushing that for next year and exposing them to different opportunities. But next year I really hope to get into the elementary school and organize some sort of activities for the little guys, even though it's not really time for them to be thinking about careers, but just seeing what's out there I think is fun, and it's important for them to know. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to for next year. Go to the next slide. And I know the year has been going super well, but obviously it's not gonna be perfect, and there are some areas where I could definitely improve, and there were some difficult times, one of which being scheduling. So not everybody in the community is gonna run on a school schedule. We have a very unique schedule compared to businesses in the community. We work on the block schedule, students have a different class every other day, and it can be a little bit tricky to coordinate with businesses, as well as just getting students into their internships because they have 7 periods, but a different class for each day. So that can be kind of tough. And again, with their sports, they have a lot of other activities, not just their school. So what I kind of did to work around that was we have our Circle Up and advisory time, and I really wanted to avoid students missing their core classes, so I used a lot of that advisory Circle Up time. If I was going to schedule a guest speaker to come in, I would use that time and make sure I'd advertise it so students knew to stay on campus, don't leave because we have something really cool today. Stay on campus, listen to our presentation. Yeah, so that is kind of how I worked around it. And then our upperclassmen, some of them have a few gaps in their schedules, so it made it a little bit easier to get those students into internships because they would sometimes be after lunch, and then it would follow on those Circle Up days where they don't technically have a class, kind of like Toby, that's when she would do her internship, so it's not conflicting with any of their core classes. Another difficulty I had at some times was student engagement and even just awareness. Like I mentioned before, I was able to give a presentation to all the students at each grade level, just introducing myself at the beginning of the school year. Some they don't really think that career exploration is that important right now, and that's not something on their priority list, and that's okay. Maybe they will as they get older. And some of them are just preoccupied with clubs and sports, and they just have a lot of other things to do. And this is kind of on the end of their list. But to help improve this, I've just kind of been really trying to promote all the cool activities that some of our students who are participating, I just promote that and hope to catch their eye, and hopefully they become interested as well. And then lastly, I'd say sometimes it was a bit of a challenge to get a business in the community to commit to having a student for an internship. It can get a little bit tricky, like I said, with the scheduling. They don't follow a school schedule. That can be tricky for everybody. And then I have an example of another conflict with a business. I had a student who she wants to be a lawyer, which is super exciting, so I scheduled a meeting with a divorce lawyer. That was the only one that got back to me, so I sat down with her and I proposed this internship with her, and she really just couldn't give a great experience to our student. It would have mostly been her just kind of sitting there, and she wouldn't have been able to see clients. It would have been a little bit tricky, so it wasn't going to be the best quality experience that we could have given. So that does happen sometimes. I've had a lot of people say no, which you have to be okay with some people telling you no. And you just have to keep looking and find somebody else. So I've just been working hard to find other businesses in town that are willing to work with us and provide our students great opportunities for work-based learning. And that's all I have. So thank you so much for listening, and if you have any questions or need any additional information, my contact information is here. But I'm super excited to see where next year takes me, and I think this year has been super successful, and it's been really fun getting to be part of the school district.
Thank you for your presentation. Do the board have any questions, comments for Jill or the students?
Awesome work. Room and board in Bozeman's that's a good deal. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So
Nice job, you guys.
Toby, were you flying that plane?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, she was flying it. I was in the back.
Was there someone else there?
Yeah,
Just
his
her.
name was Steven. He was cool. Because he let me fly the plane so.
That's great information. It's super exciting to see just all the different opportunities, and I don't know about you guys, but part of what I was hoping we were gonna get tonight, and I think you got a pretty good taste of it, is just how diverse this job is for Jill, because she's working with people from all walks of life, and you know, our students are representative of that and their interests. And so trying to find that spark with each kid and what's gonna pique their interest and maybe give them a little bit of a jump start or a head start on their next phase after East Helena High School is just a huge chunk of what's going on here. So it's just really informative and really appreciate it.
I'll just say that this is something that's been kind of a passion of mine and very excited with the presentation you gave. I know that when this went through the legislative process, you know, what you're providing here is exactly what these legislators are looking for. They are trying to, you know, trying to get our students onto a career pathway earlier in the process. And so this next legislative session, however it looks, funding for this program will probably come up. So this type of presentation, this type of information will go a long ways to reinforce the success this program has here and hopefully across the state. So hopefully I might grab you and have you come up there with me to,
Sure.
and I'm sure the seniors will be gone to greater things, but
They might come back for me.
yeah,
Maybe.
that would be appreciated. This type of testimony goes a long ways, you know, in reinforcing to these legislators how crucial and important these types of programs are. So,
And can I just add that she comes down and works with Jaden Yackley and for our career paths, and they have people in all the time and go places. And when a couple of our kids from the 227 came back from the job fair, they were like, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And Kemper and I were like, because it's usually not kids that are interested or like passionate about things. So we told them that we would have Jill come down by the end of the year to start building that path, because there are really kids that aren't into school. And just so that they can know, like, here are your options getting out is a huge opportunity for them.
I would say, like, I don't think you could do a better job of, like, justifying the position in that sense. And number one, and number two, I think that's probably an accurate depiction of the legal profession. Kind of sit around and watch everybody work.
So this is an action item, and we have been requested by the superintendent.
This is actually information. I did it as two separate items, just
Oh,
to
okay, yep, okay, I stand corrected, yep. So, if there's no additional questions for our presenters, then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. Thanks for coming.
Okay, so now we'll go on to, and the action item associated with this, which is the extension of our Advanced Opportunity Coordinator position.
Yeah, so it was a few years ago in a conversation with Sarah Novak about how challenging it is for school personnel who already have full-time jobs like principals, vice principals, counselors, superintendents, to get out in the community and build the relationships that are necessary to kind of pave the way for kids to go have these types of experiences as part of their education. Sarah carried the bill to create the Advanced Opportunity Facilitator position, and that included the option for districts to use a portion of their Advanced Opportunity funds towards that individual's salary. We have additionally, so I would say our Advanced Opportunity option, we spend about 20% of our Advanced Opportunity money towards the salary for the Advanced Opportunity Facilitator, which probably amounts to roughly 40% of the annual wages. And then we're backfilling that right now with some money from our innovative tax donation that we received last year. And so we've got money to continue the position at least for another 3 to 4 years, just using that funding structure. I've also talked with Jill a little bit and Scott about possibly adding an additional title where she may also become an adult ed facilitator, which would give us another source of funding for her salary out of adult ed. And part of the reason it fits, and obviously you can tell Jill's very busy, doing what she's doing. So I'm a little hesitant to overload her, but there is an ebb and flow to her job. Like she was saying, like at the beginning of a term, she's running around like a chicken with her head cut off, talking with kids, trying to get their schedule set up, to get things organized. And then there's, I don't want to call it downtime or dead time, but there's an ebb and flow to it where it slows up that I think that she could weave in some tasks related to adult education in there, and so that is something that we'll explore. I'm confident that this is a job that's impacting kids in our district in a positive way, and it's doing, like Scott said, exactly what the legislative intent is for the position. And so what I'm asking you for tonight is to authorize the position on the language I used in the packet is on an ongoing basis. And I don't like to use the word permanent with anything because things can always change, but I do want it to be an accepted position in the district that doesn't have to come back to the board for reauthorization or reapproval every year. This past year was a pilot, and we all knew that going into it, that we were going to try it out and see how it went. And as you can see, it's been just a phenomenal success. And that's partly due to the fact that we've got a phenomenal individual in that role who understands kids, wants to work with kids, and is passionate about what we're trying to accomplish here. So I'd like to continue that.
Okay, so before the board tonight, we've got a recommendation from the superintendent to approve a motion to establish the Advanced Opportunities Facilitator as an ongoing position. Can I get a motion for that?
I like that motion.
Okay, motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Stacy. Questions, comments from the board?
Often these nascent positions are dependent almost wholly on the ambition of the individual. Like, you're doing great, it's awesome. Couldn't be better. Would have failed with anyone else. You got it.
Jill's name employed.
Is there any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, Joe. Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, which is our consideration of transportation shop space.
Okay, so normally I don't like to bring things to you that are a little bit half-baked. This is not quite finalized and ready for prime time. If you read through the lease and then the comments back from our insurance rep, Brody, he brought up several things in the lease that might be problematic that need to be fixed, and they're not resolved yet. The reason that it's in front of you tonight instead of waiting for a month is that when these types of opportunities become available, we've got to move on it or somebody else is going to snatch it up. And so what's going on here is for the last year or 2 or maybe even 3, we've had a lot of side conversations and remarks and discussions about at what point are we going to look at trying to bring some of our bus repair and maintenance work in-house rather than taking it off to commercial shops every time that a bus needs something adjusted or tightened or oil changed or something like that. And the reality of it is we don't have a suitable facility to be turning wrenches on equipment. And so we've been kind of looking around with our former transportation supervisor, Nick Turner, and now with Kirk, who is our current transportation supervisor. I've had him sniffing around the community looking for space. You need a pretty big shop with a big high overhead door to fit buses in. It's got to be heated, insulated. It's got to have running water, storage space, all that kind of stuff. So there's not like a ton of spaces out there that are just suitable for that. But this place came available, and Kirk found it. The lease that the landlord sent us is really what they initially were trying to lease these spaces for was more for storage, and so there's some problematic language in there about like hazardous and flammable materials that if we're going to be having a shop, we're going to need oil and gas and that type of stuff, solvents in there, so we'd have to resolve that. What I'm asking for is permission to enter into the lease agreement if we can negotiate favorable terms with the landlord. And what we're hoping to accomplish here is, without committing to building our own $2 or $3 million facility to work on buses, we're gonna dip our toe in the water and commit $24,000 to an annual lease, $2,000 a month for the space plus utilities, which is gonna cost us a little bit, to get started doing that kind of work. I've had pretty extensive conversations with Terrell about it over the last emails and texts and conversations over the last couple days. Just about the reality of it is that we're probably not gonna initially save ourselves $24,000 just by doing this. But it'll give us a chance to see if it's feasible, if it's something that we wanna continue, and if it's something that, we may want to invest in our own facility somewhere down the road. So that's why it's on the agenda tonight, and I guess I'm kind of happy to take any questions that you might have about it.
Do you know that it's for sale?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that language is in the lease too, so if it sells, it's possible that the new landlord, if he wants to take over all the shops, could kick everybody out on 30 days notice, so that's another factor. And I did, bother asking Scott if he thought we should just pony up the $2.7 million and buy the whole thing, because it would be a great maintenance facility for us, but.
And what did I say?
Is this
That's it.
Can the boosters just?
Yeah.
Sounds like boosters.
Yeah.
Did it get through the conditional use permit of do we fit under it as light industry, or is it?
So I haven't even dug that deep into the zoning. The problem that I understood with the zoning was that the owner thought he was gonna be able to lease these as retail shops.
Yeah.
And that's why he's leasing them as storage spaces.
Yeah.
He says this use that we're asking for fits because we're not a retail shop. We're not gonna be bringing everybody's cars in there to fix them. It's just for the district's own use facility. But that is part of the problem.
I know we applied for a conditional use permit, we should ask to see.
And I don't know that, but I do have the realtor's email address, I can check with her. But we're not serious about buying it right now, we just really wanna try it out, right?
You could buy it, cause there's several buildings, you could put a wrestling room over there, build a baseball field
Yeah,
over
absolutely.
there.
It would solve a lot of problems, I'm not gonna lie. Not
It
gonna lie.
almost touches that property though, right?
Yeah.
Cause it's like 40 acres.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
it
that
is.
far. A lot of that'll be on floodplain, but.
Yeah.
Someday when Plant Road gets punched through, then we'd have access straight over to Valley Drive from there too. No, it's actually a very nice facility. It's a little probably overbuilt for what we would need. But like I said, right now, we just wanna, set up a spot where, and we do have a guy on staff who is willing to work extra hours and do repairs for us. And it'll just give us an opportunity to see how feasible that is for the district.
So would that be, like, if he's working the extra hours, is that a different contract with him, or is he getting bus driver?
Still don't know the answer to that yet. I met with the union today to talk about it, but it's a very insightful question because his title is bus driver, not bus mechanic, right?
Can he do all the work that Grizzly Diesel does?
No, but he can do a lot of light duty wrenching. He's been an over the road truck
Will the
driver
most
for quite a while.
expensive work be done by who?
Our most expensive work is still gonna end up at
$10,000
either R&R, or Grizzly Diesel, or somewhere like that. Partly just due to lack of equipment, and partly due to lack of expertise.
Yeah, some of the tools you need to diagnose the buses, you need a laptop with a $3,000 program and the training associated to, from Cummings, from Allison, from, Eaton Fuller, if we get any of those kind of missions. So it's quite a bit of diagnostic equipment just in general. For us, we're not talking just 24K either, we're probably talking several $1,000s in tools as well.
Plus paying utilities every month.
Yeah, it's not there's no question, if you look at I had Dan pull some data, I guess one of the things that's,
We spent like 18,000 in the last 6 months, approximately, and that seems like a low ball.
Yeah.
That is low.
Bigger ones.
Yeah.
So from July 24 to June of 25, all of our, I think it is Grizzly sold was $161,000.
It was a lot.
Yeah. Now, some of those, if I remember right, one of those might have been an engine rebuild during that time frame, which is a $30,000 deal. That's not gonna happen every year. But when your labor rates are $150 an hour, for a shop, changing oil's the same price there as it is here. It might even be cheaper depending on if we can buy in bulk.
So can this guy change oil?
That would be what I would hope, is that he would be able to do, basic, oil inspections, replace headlights, bulbs, any of that kind of stuff, tighten arms, on the mechanics, if there's any, a place to clean. You could do basic, air brake work, if you've got a leaking, system, the fittings are relatively easy to repair. Even if it gets into it, if we don't have any issues with certification, we might even be able to get into brake work, because some of those are not very complicated systems. I've done it myself.
Is there an additional liability on the district if he's not a licensed diesel mechanic?
That's a question that.
We'd have to check, yeah. Some of the stuff that Terrell's describing, our guys do already, if it's real simple. But when we don't have a heated indoor shop with good lighting for, year-round type of work like that. So a lot of it they're just doing in the parking lot out there, so just kind of formalize it.
That heated shop is actually key oftentimes when I dealt with commercial vehicles that were air braking. Once those air brakes ice up and it's cold, if you don't have a place to park them, to dry them out, to thaw them out, because if your air dryer goes bad, you gotta, get it to the point where you can, once the vehicle gets there, at least then we've got a place to put them. The other thing is they can work on more than just the buses. I mean, we've got the Red Rocket.
That thing is in your name, man. I was looking through
Which is a van or whatever, I think that Sean
It is a
uses.
minivan,
For instance, you could do service work on our tool cab. We could do, a lot of that small engine stuff as well. So, it could be a huge benefit if we can get the lease out. I guess I have concerns with, him wanting stains on the floor.
Right.
I don't know what it costs to epoxy a floor after they're done, but, as a lease kind of.
We can send Tyrell and Mark in there, and Tyrell can tell them how to do it right, and Mark can tell them how to get it done.
Well, I would just put that on it.
It's an opportunity, it's something we've looked at, before, to try and bring more in-house services. That is in our strategic plan. Does this make sense? I don't know, I think it makes sense to at least look into it further, and, if the opportunity presents itself, like Pam says, there's not a lot of shop space of the size that will support a bus. Those are few and far between. And if we don't like it after 1 year, if we saying we're not, being positive here, I don't think it's any skin off our back. I think tools are gonna be beneficial for our maintenance staff regardless.
It's striking how expensive, and not, rightly so, good for them. But it's striking, to change oil and stuff like that. That's brutal.
Yeah, my little brother's shop runs $185 an hour, or $165 an hour, it's not cheap anymore for any of this stuff.
I like the eyes wide open approach. See what happens, see if it works.
Would you like to place that in the form of a motion?
I'd love to place that in form of a motion.
That'd be great.
So I would make a motion to authorize the superintendent to approve the lease pending successful negotiation of the key issues identified.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Thank you.
Tiffany?
Yeah.
Okay. Questions, comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public?
Where does the money come from?
It'll come out of the transportation budget. If we enter into the lease, we'll have to make these first couple payments out of this year's budget, and then we'll factor it into next year's budget. And we'll have to figure out what utilities are gonna be on that too.
Good question.
And to be clear, transportation is a fund outside the general fund, so it's not part of, when we talk about the levy and all that, the levy dollars are not part of this.
It's probably missing accounts.
Yeah.
So, not seeing any additional comments, I will call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries.
Empire Building.
Right?
Okay, we'll move on now to our consideration of our Hunters Education Program request.
Okay, there's a letter in your supporting docs with a signature from Francis over at Fish, Wildlife and Parks. This is an annual approval. It's required in state law and board policy that not for us to give approval for them to use our facilities for training, but for them to bring demonstration firearms onto campus for teaching kids the safe handling of firearms in the pastime of hunting, which is Montana birthright, right? Come on.
As our firearms.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Have they ever actually used it?
They used,
Like in the last
They haven't
6
taught a
years?
class out here in a few years. He said they're planning to next year when I was emailing back and forth.
I know, because I looked for a class and I couldn't find one.
Yeah.
I was like, who's telling it does that, why is there?
Yeah.
I'd make a motion to approve the request to use school facility, school facilities for the hunting education training.
And authorization of firearms.
And authorizing them to bring demonstration firearms.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Martin, second from Tyrell. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Okay, next item is closing inactive student activity accounts. This one was my thought process, is that for years and years and years, we as a board have to approve all of these accounts. And I asked Dan one day, how come we never close any of them?
They're just sitting there.
They're just sitting there, so.
Yeah, so the board is required to not just approve the accounts, but to approve closing the accounts and then determining what happens to the money that's in those accounts. And so in your packet is a list of the accounts that we are recommending that we close that haven't been used in a number of years. The EVMS book order account, EVMS home ec, EVMS mini camp, EVMS photo, Radley enrichment, Radley pop, the community garden account, and the East Helena High School JROTC account. Those are all inactive accounts, and they're accounts that we don't see anytime in the near future that they're going to become active again. Your packet, I believe, also lists where we're recommending that the money and how much money is in those accounts. So the EVMS book order, we're recommending we transfer that $31.54. Do you not have it in there?
I do.
Okay, it may have been, so that's why I brought this one copy here. The EVMS book order is $31.54, and we're recommending that we transfer that to the EVMS library. What happened was we updated it after there, yeah, it's not. So the EVMS home ec has $460.19, and we're recommending transferring that to the EVMS foods. That's the account for the cooking, foods and nutrition
Can I
class.
ask a quick question on that class?
Yep.
And Lindsay walked out, but there, and I don't know, maybe Kimber can answer some of this. Has there been talks of joining foods and home ec? Just cause Sid's in the class and she's talked about, well, what do you wanna do next? Do you guys wanna sew pillows, or do you wanna, so I'm just curious if that wants to be, if there's a potential of that class becoming a foods and home ec.
Well, that's what it was originally when the school was built in 1998.
Yeah.
It's, the challenge is finding the unicorn that can teach all that at one time. And this teacher's only been with us since Christmas, so I'm not fully aware of what her capabilities are.
Sure, I just know that she's been having conversation with the
Yeah.
students of other ideas to be, of what they wanna do in the class.
So I'm not really aware, I don't know.
Yeah, I think, it's definitely a conversation we plan on having, but like Dan was saying, we kinda had her hit the ground running, with, finishing out this year. Dan's right, yeah, we have the setup for it, it's been done in the past, that's a direction we do wanna go. And I think she's more than capable to do that, but I think just finishing out the year, she's just kinda focused more on that foods and nutrition side of it.
So is that one that you wanna hold off on, if it's a potential?
It's combined.
What we're really doing is just combining those two accounts.
Okay.
So it won't hurt anything because she's the teacher who's gonna control the account anyway with her students. Okay, but it's a good question, and one that kind of slipped the radar there, so. The EVMS mini camp was a fund that was created for a grant project 25 years ago that resulted in the prickly pear bear, which is on display in the city hall by the front doors. We had a group of very talented paraprofessionals raise money and paint that bear and put him on display as part of a project that's going on with downtown Helen at the time. They raised $985.83 and never did anything with it. It's been sitting there for 25 years. And so we're recommending transferring that to the EVMS Field Trip Fund. The EVMS Photo Fund has $266.22. We're recommending transferring that to Yearbook. That's a holdover class from when photography was a class that you actually went in a dark room and developed film. Now it's all digital and we don't have those types of expenses related to it anymore, so that's why we don't really need the account anymore. Radley Enrichment, $249.67. We're recommending transferring that to the Radley Field Trip Fund. Radley Pop, we're recommending transferring that $32.14 to the Radley Field Trip Fund. The Community Garden has $11.30. We're also recommending putting that into EVMS Foods. And the JROTC, we're recommending transferring that $1.06 to National Honor Society.
Looks like Gus is coming out pretty well with this whole thing, $30 here, $30 there.
You're gonna be going on some field
Pretty
trips.
soon you're going to Chicago.
And I'm open to questions about any of that. Sorry I didn't bring copies of this for everybody.
I would like to get.
Actually, I have two, so you can have this.
So before the board, we've got the accounts to be closed and the suggested disbursement of those funds. So I would entertain a motion to do so.
I would make a motion to close the student accounts and disperse the funds as recommended by the superintendent.
Okay, have a motion from Mark, second from Stacy. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public?
And that was seconded by Stacy?
Stacy,
Yes. Thank you.
Good job coming up with that. That is a good point.
What's that, sorry? What's that?
Now that he's retired. This will actually help with the audit, because it's fewer accounts to go through.
Yeah, and I'm sure Jen appreciates that.
Yes,
Or I guess that's Jen.
It is Jen, but I'll take the credit. It's fine.
So, seeing no further questions, comments for the board or the public, I will call the question. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is appointment of our Prickly Pear Cooperative representative.
This is an annual hoop we gotta jump through. The board has to represent somebody from the district to represent us on the board of the Prickly Pear Special Education Cooperative. Historically, that's been the superintendent. And so I'm asking you to appoint me again to represent you on the Prickly Pear Co-op board unless somebody else wants to take this cup from me.
Should we give it to Gus since he made that one?
Yeah.
I got nothing else going on.
I'll make the motion to appoint Dan as our Prickly Pear Cooperative for the district.
Okay, got a motion from Tyrell, a second from Tristan. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay, our eighth and final item under new business is a board discussion about a self-evaluation or the 360-degree evaluation. This was something that I brought up to Dan when we were setting the agenda. I don't believe any members of the board, except for it would be Mark and myself, were on the board when we attempted this before. But through my conversations with MTSBA, COSBA, a lot of these school districts do self-evaluations. Try to find out what blind spots are associated with our communication, whether or not we're working well as a team, whether or not there's things that we can do to improve. And we tried it once before. It didn't go over very well. The reason being is that as board members, we're volunteer. We do evaluations all over the place with the superintendent, with other individuals. We've got a lot of other things to do. And as a result of it, when we did this, there wasn't a high level of participation and enthusiasm in doing it. But I didn't want to, especially since we have a lot of newer members, I thought, okay, perhaps maybe this would be a time to blow the dust off of it or come up with a different evaluation tool that we could use not only as an internal tool for the board members to evaluate ourselves as a team, but also to provide input from the administrative staff and for the teaching staff as far as how they perceive we are performing with the district. I didn't want to throw this out and say, yep, this is what the board chairman is going to do, and we're going to do this. I wanted to get a feel or a consensus from the board on whether or not there was a perception that there would be value to doing something like that. And if there is, then I can work with Dan, I can work with MTSBA, I can try to see if we can head down that previous evaluation tool and see whether or not that would be something we can utilize, at least for a start. There's some school districts that do a board evaluation annually. The direction I was given when I was in Louisville was that at a minimum, we should be doing it once every 2 years. Well, we did it the one time since I've been on the board, and like I said, it came with mixed results. But I just wanted to get a feel and a conversation with the board on what your guys' thoughts were. That's the first phase of this, and there's a second phase that I'm gonna bring along right afterwards, so.
I don't think any of us are here to be crummy board members, so it'd be nice to get some feedback. I mean, I think it would help give us a little bit of direction, especially for newer board members, for sure.
As long as it doesn't cost the school district anything.
I
If
think
eval's gonna cost money for the school district, then we'll figure out something to do on our own.
well, I can't imagine it would cost us anything different than what a board, or what a superintendent's evaluation would be or anything like that. It would just be a tool that we would try to find or hunt down that would be utilizing it. I mean, I'm sure that MTSBA's got several examples that we could use. It might require staff to maybe do some modification of it to make it district specific, but.
And you're talking about having like administrators evaluate us as well, right?
Yeah, that's why I said 360. I've done some 360-degree evaluations before. Sometimes they're very positive. You can get some really good information from people. Sometimes all they are is just a bitch session, people just airing agreements. And so, that in those times, they're not very productive. Like I said, I wanted to throw it out to the board to see. Brandon's not here in the audience to be able to get his opinion because he'll be coming in as a new board member in May.
Did we announce that at some point? Did I miss something?
Did we what?
I had no idea we were getting a board member.
Oh.
Was that announced at some point? Did we get?
When we canceled the election?
What was that?
When we canceled the election?
Well, I knew we canceled it, but that didn't mean we were necessarily getting a new one. We had 3 positions and we had 3 people.
We didn't have 3 people.
But who knew
But
that?
the third person was Mark, and he did file.
Well, I know, but was I supposed to get on the state website and figure out who filed, or was that something to be? I guess I.
I had no idea, I didn't know this.
Yeah,
till
none
this
of us
morning.
knew any,
I had
like,
no
none of us
idea.
have been told anything. I learned it from Facebook.
Oh, okay.
That was probably an error on.
It doesn't
Dan's
matter.
and
Yeah,
my
it's no
part.
big deal, it just, I feel like I was a little taken aback because I wasn't told anything, which
Yeah.
is fine.
Mark missed the filing deadline for his position by
Okay.
choice.
Okay.
And so he chose not to rerun on it, and he did not want it to make a big deal about it. So, I mean, I was careful to honor that, but you probably should have been made aware that by acclamation, we have Brandon coming in to take on his place.
And his first meeting will be next month?
He'll be seated after new business, or at the beginning of new business at the next meeting.
Does it-
No, no blame or anything, I just was shocked.
No, it should come from social media, especially since as much as I despise the social
I
media.
know, yeah. Well, I was
it should
told
not
and I got
come.
online and watched it.
Yeah, that was a faux pas on
No
my
worries,
part.
no worries.
So I mean, I'm no stranger to critical appraisal from teenage daughters, but, and, you know, I mean, no, and I think they would say, you know, it's just, it's never been anything but glowing reports, but the one thing I would ask is like, it cannot look like the superintendent evaluation. I'm all for getting any, like, that seems to me dated, archaic, painful, all those things, in terms of a structural thing. So I am all for, like, I would love to amend my behavior in some way, if we can make it more useful to constituents and to administration. I'd be all in any way, like, shape, or form, you bet.
I mean, ultimately, our performance as individual trustees is determined at the ballot box. But the way that our district would run and how our board runs and how we can improve is based on the decisions that we make as a team. So that's the reason why I threw it out to begin with those several years back. And like I said, it was mixed response, and part of it, I'll admit, part of it was that the tool that we used was probably a little bit cumbersome and a little bit obnoxious when it came to the structural side of it.
Well, I mean, I'm not being very helpful, because I'm certainly not offering to come up with a better one.
Right.
So, but if you come across some, I know that you are deep in this world.
If there's a level of interest,
Yes.
then what I will do is I will pursue that with Dan's help. I'll pursue a tool that might be good to at least start out with. And if we decide that the tool's not what we are looking for, we want to make some changes to it, then we can go ahead and do that or find something else. Yeah.
I think some of it too is, I don't wanna call it lack of knowledge, but the perceived notion of what we can and can't do. Like, and I'm learning all about that on Facebook, right? Like, we're the gods of the school, but we're really not. But according to the outside world, you know.
Perception.
So
gets to be
perception, so I think if we're gonna throw that out there, there needs to be the correct perception of what we are actually here to do versus what they think we can do.
And that's one of the reasons, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you want to take it out to a farther position than that, but that's one of the reasons why when I say 360, maybe I mean 270.
Well,
And we're not talking about going to the public on it, that it would be mostly just those individuals that understand the positions that we do, the administrative staff, the teaching staff.
I think even some of the disconnect is with teachers
Could very well be.
on what we're capable of doing.
And then
without.
if we find that there's something that is beyond our ability, I mean, just by fiat, we would ignore that.
But I also think it's
But we
great
could communicate.
information to be able to connect that disconnect
Mhm, yeah.
as a district. But I don't, I think it could be a good tool, but I think it could also be a harmful tool in a sense of potentially connecting some errors that may be happening within the district of connection or hearsay or whatnot, but then I also think it could be a harmful of trying to figure out how to wrap my
Really
head.
being thrown under the bus, or?
Yes,
who really-
or, yes.
Could it, I know.
Is your vision of this 360 evaluation, is it intended to be lateral through the other board members, evaluating other board members on how we work together, as well as the administration, superintendent, maybe other close people? I mean, I guess depending on how wide a net we throw, I could see how fast it could get diluted, Scott. I'm not opposed to it, I just want to make sure that we're going to get what we need, because I've been a part of many evaluations in my years in career, and some of them are checking boxes and badminton them back and forth in an electronic system just for, I would say, blanks and giggles, but and other times I've had really, really good evaluations. I for one would love to get some feedback on how I interact with the board as well as the staff and as well as get, you know, from others as well. I mean, cause it's, I'm looking for, I mean, I wanna see some, what can I improve on, what can I do better? What do I excel at? When do I need to shut my bloody mouth?
And I would be very careful on making sure that it wasn't an evaluation of individual board members. I'm envisioning this more of that we are evaluating ourselves as a team and what the staff sees us as a team. We start getting into personal things on, you know, the way the board chair, and in fact, actually, that might not be a bad way of doing it, except, you know, how the board chair does his business.
Oh, we
Or
don't
how,
have enough burdens.
you know, precisely. And the board chair really doesn't want to hear it. But, you know, mostly just on how we're interacting as a team. Where, you know, whether or not the lines of communications, we've got, as part of Dan's evaluation, how well does he communicate to the board? How come we don't have one on how well?
Not very well, we had
board-
2 trustees who didn't even.
Yeah, didn't know about it.
For sure, I'd love to know if we could provide a better mechanism for, you know, the staff or student, or teachers to bring issues to our attention, like just simple things like that, that would be really super.
And I'm looking at it as mostly a beneficial to see us as a board grow and improve in our performance on it. You know, it's this good to great type of, you know, what's his name, Kobe.
Yeah.
You know, his ways of improvement and how we can do that. That's what I'm looking for, is seeing how, as a team, we can improve our efforts. And like I said, it's difficult to do when you've got an entrenched board, because at that point, they're set in their ways. I'm set in my ways, you know, the predecessors that we've had there have been long time members of it. And so change is gonna be too difficult to make, where we've got a younger board or, you know, more, or a less seasoned board, that this might be a better opportunity for us to be able to institute some of those changes. So that was what my thought process is. I'm not saying we have to do it, but it sounds like perhaps there might be some validity to it. Am I hearing everybody?
If you want a thumbs up, I'll give you a thumbs up for it.
Okay, that's kind of, because I'll go to the effort to find a tool that might meet our needs. And, you know, we could even, there's no rush, we don't have to do it next meeting or the meeting after, but what we can do is maybe we can come up with multiple tools over the next month or two, and then maybe share those as examples to see whether or not there's something that we would want to use as a starting point to move forward. Which brings me to another item on there, is that there are a lot of good districts out there that do personal training or team training. And I know that we have MCEL, but I know that several of us, due to scheduling conflicts that occur during that time frame, are unable to attend. And so therefore, there's limitations associated with that. One of the items that came out of the COSBA meeting that I went to was that they did a book reading, taking a chapter a month, spending no more than 10-15 minutes as a board at a board meeting to discuss that chapter, just bouncing some things over, and probably at the end of the meeting, because we, you know, would want to make sure that, you know, individuals that wanted to leave could, they're not listening to us do a, you know, a Wednesday afternoon book club. But
We were
you
gonna
know,
talk about like a mountain retreat or something.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
And
We got the Radley money that we could spend.
That's right.
Yeah, we're taking that back, actually, sorry.
You know, and so that was another thought, another thought that I might have, that I thought maybe I'd propose, would that be something? I don't like asking you guys to do more than what you're already doing. This is a volunteer position, and for you to have to do additional homework on it, I feel is unfair. But if the board felt like there was value associated with doing something like that, then, You know, like I said, it would be an arduous task. It'd be, you know, we're gonna read one chapter. It might take us 2 years to get through a 24 chapter book, if my math is correct. You know, it might take us a while to do, but yet I'm trying to interact or trying to bring the team in more interactive with each other too, and having some of those discussions. So, thoughts on that? And we do have the budget to do that. We, you know, with MCEL and with the, you know, attendance that isn't, you know, that we don't have, and some that we've got monies that are available to us for board development. And so that's a budget item that we could utilize that for, if the board thought that was valuable.
One thing I would ask you to keep your eyes open for, like I felt that in our recent discussions about personnel and issues and privacy, like I feel woefully underprepared. And that upon me, about what's the law, what can we do, what can't we do? And those are sort of discussions that I think they could just be part of a meeting. I mean, we don't have a lot of light meetings, I know, so, but those sorts of ideas, like I don't care who gets to hear that stuff, but if you would keep your eye open for that kind of thing, I think that would be helpful for us to know, especially because we are relatively young.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's where my comment comes from, like, teachers maybe expecting us, and I don't wanna classify it to teachers, cause it's not just that, but it's all staff or community, expecting that we can just spew out what's going on, right? Where we can't. And so, exactly that, just more training or more information on what we can and cannot be said, or even more transparency from either Dan and Scott out into the public saying, okay, this, and you're, actually, I think the latest one was, this is what can and can't be said, or this is kind of what's going on, but it binds us, and then we look like we're so buried in the sand, and do you get where I'm coming from? So that's where I struggle with this evaluation, is because I feel like there's a disconnect on what we can actually do and what we can't do, but I feel like there's a disconnect in staff on what we can do and what we can't do. Because I've had people ask me, like, well, why is this not happening? Well, because we can't talk about it. Like, there's so much more going on. So that's my hesitation with the evaluation, not in a negative way, but trying to bring forth the disconnect that's happening between the whole school in general. And trainings and that for our young board are great, but like you said, restraints of when we can actually go and do that is tough.
And one thing I would do, and it's a great point, you know, I'll bring that up, is that MTSBA has new board training that they provide, and it's via Zoom, you know, so it's not like you actually have to go to MCEL. It does not require you to be a new member in order to go through it. In fact, I've gone through it several years in a row, and I learn something every time I do it. So things like open meeting laws, privacy disclosures, those types of things are encompassed, maybe not in every one of them, but usually over the course of several years worth of it, they'll touch upon it. And so some of that stuff would be helpful too, but I understand what you're
And
saying.
reminding of that, I did that all at the beginning, but you're so overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
As a new board member with all this stuff, you're like, oh my gosh, what did I just sign up for?
And I don't wanna, you know, if I'm tasked to choose the book that we read, for instance, I don't want it, and, you know, with all due respect to Martin, I don't want it to be Law 101 on that, because we're gonna gloss over, nobody's gonna read it. I want it to be something fun that we can come across that's at least somewhat entertaining.
I guess the short answer is, I don't think, if you wanna put something forward, I think any one of us would be open to it, is the perception I get. And so, come up with something and try it.
Okay, and Montana's unique, I'll tell you this right now, Montana's unique. We do not get paid as trustees. That's unusual in the country. Yes, that is very unusual in the country. But there's also required minimum classes that board members must take under individual state laws. And they have to have continuing education credits, they have to, you know, take it, and so there are requirements associated with it. some of these trustees are making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. It's the state, the taxpayers, but it's a state, it's the school districts and stuff, they're employees of the school district.
Like being a county commissioner.
Yeah, just like anything else. Montana's unique, but it's kind of nice because you've got a citizen board. You don't have professional politicians or lawyers or whatever that know all nuances of the law, so. Okay, well, if I understand or if I'm hearing properly, it's not an absolutely no, that there is some interest in pursuing that. If that is the case, then I'll go to the effort to try to help find something that'll work.
Put it on audiobooks and all. Not that I listen to audiobooks either.
Curious George goes to school.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a effort it's gonna take to prepare. I mean, I spent several hours preparing, especially with policy, I really did into that, but, I was actually very thankful we didn't have any.
I would gloss over quicker than any of you, so, yeah, trust me.
Well, you're retired now.
It doesn't matter, I'll still gloss over it.
Coming up a lot. He's got extra time.
Okay,
Can I make some comments?
yeah.
I think you'll get a lot of, like, from staff, a lot of varied, like, I don't know if your staff really knows what your role is as a school board unless you're coming every month. So you might wanna take that into consideration of maybe just like a definition of what your job is as a board. Like some of the things Stacy was saying, what you can and can't do. Cause unless you're coming to multiple meetings a year, just like the public, they don't know you guys discuss budget. They don't know all these things, so, I also worry that you'll get a lot of comments that, from people who just don't know, but are gonna make the comments anyway, which might not be useful, or it might help you define what you do and let people know what you do.
What I'm hoping will occur with something like that, Kate, would be that if there's those types of comments, it will give us a starting point to help communicate those subjects a little bit more clear so that people do understand.
Yeah.
Now, there are going to be some people that don't care what the law says or what that this is what I want and you should be able to provide that to us and everything else be damned. Well, that's not gonna happen. I mean, we're not gonna be able to do that, but if it helps, if we can provide some clarity with, it's I understand where that comment came from. This is the reason why we can't go that route, and we maybe can communicate that in subsequent meetings. I mean, I've done, there's been times, and it happens more often than I care to admit, there's been times like in open meeting or in the public, where I don't convey the fact that the board cannot, by law, comment on public comment. We can ask for clarifying as far as like last names and things of that nature, but it violates open meeting laws if we start having conversations based on public comment. People may not understand that. They might say, well, geez, how come they just ignored what I had to say? Well, by law we have to, otherwise we're in violation of state law. So that would be helpful if we knew that, if we got those type of comments, we could communicate that on. So, okay. Well, I won't belabor it anymore. I will conclude this regularly scheduled meeting of the East Helena Public Schools Board of Trustees, and I will call us adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
10 o'clock.